is a story of a dead and lovely. It's a podcast with your friends, Steve and Ben. Take it, Steve.
And it's true that we are the best podcast.
Yes.
In the whole fucking world.
I think we pretty much just did that. You got it, man.
Yeah.
I pass the baton to you.
Uh-huh.
You seem confident.
We didn't say anything about our mate Alice, though, so...
No.
Kind of failed there.
Yeah. We let Alice down.
Mm-hmm. Didn't mention Joe the Butcher either.
Yeah, they were fucking.
They was fucking.
They were fucking. He was pounding some meat.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
And then he'd go work.
Yeah. Then he'd go to the butcher shop. Yeah. Welcome, dead and lovely listeners, to the greatest horror movie review podcast in this land or any other land. Why, it's dead and lovely. Here with the host with the most, it's me, Uncle Ben.
And me, Hollywood Steve.
Ooh, you sound ghastly over there. A little ghostly.
I'm on the way to Ghost. I had a migraine for the past few days.
Dying.
So I feel like dying, yeah.
Damn, dude.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it seems like migraines have been kind of in the air lately. Kate had one last week. One of my students just said
what that
he had
Phil
like
Collins
a 3-day.
song was about.
Yeah. I can feel it. What did you go? Oh Lord!
I did say, "Oh Lord."
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
And then inside of your head, does it feel like there's always a massive drum fill going? Do 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 cha cha.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Pretty much what a migraine's like.
Wow, yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had a true migraine. I have had a skull-splitting, like life-ruining headache twice in my life, but I don't really get like serial migraines. Like it's something that happens a lot.
Yeah, it runs in my family.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hey, I heard that diarrhea is hereditary. It runs in your genes. You know what I mean? You get it?
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I got it.
It's kind of like that.
Kind of like
it's
that.
a lot like that.
It
now that I
it's
think
like
about
diarrhea, but in your brain, brain diarrhea.
So you've had the old migraines for quite some time, huh?
Well, like we were supposed to record yesterday, but I got a migraine.
Yeah.
That the night before, and my head just like you can't see bright lights, you can't think, like having to think, like if you pick up your toothbrush to brush your teeth and you drop your toothbrush, like that's cataclysmic when you have a migraine, because you're like, what the fuck do I do now?
If that's the case, I must have a migraine all the time, Steve. There's nights where I slip into bed and I put my feet under the sheets and I feel like a ragged toenail scrape the sheet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God damn it, take me now.
Take me now.
I can't handle this.
Serenity now.
Yeah, serenity now. Do yours like make you have to like yak and stuff? Do you get the throw up headaches?
It has made me nauseous before, and I was pretty nauseous, I would say, yesterday.
Yeah.
Normally what it does, like it starts like at the base of my skull.
Yeah.
On the left side, I start to feel my neck tighten up. And here's the full and honest truth about most of my migraines. Yes. They're caused by sex.
This is very, very fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that happens to other people?
Yeah, sex migraines are a thing.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
God damn, that sounds just horrible.
It only really happens to me when there's enough atmospheric pressure. It never happened in LA, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah, but it's happened here in the South several times. But
Dude.
It's just like hardcore atmospheric pressure, like we've had thunderstorms the past few days.
Yeah.
And then it's like my brain is already being pushed by the atmospheric pressure and stuff, and then the blood pressure rise from having sex meets that.
Yeah.
And what happens is I start to feel it like happening at the base of my skull, and I have two choices. Because it happens right when I'm getting close to ejaculating.
Yeah.
So I have two choices.
It's either jazz
Choice
time.
one, I can ejaculate and have insanely brain like scrambling headache.
Yeah.
Or I can not ejaculate and still have a headache, but it's not nearly as bad.
And sore testicles.
Yeah,
well, just no good.
A feeling of not completing. Yeah.
Dude, this is the worst.
It's the worst because it's real hard to make that choice at that moment.
Yeah.
It's real hard to make the choice to say, okay, we got to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that is absolutely awful. I
Yeah,
didn't
it's terrible.
know that this was like a thing.
It is a thing. It is a thing that some people have to deal with, unfortunately. It's not cool. I don't like it.
Well, after you told me you weren't feeling good yesterday, I did send some thoughts and prayers to you. Did they get there?
I got those.
Did I put a postage on them?
Yeah. I got the thoughts.
Did
I got
it
the
do
prayers.
anything to you?
Oh, yeah, immediately.
Yeah?
Yeah. In fact, as I was reading it, there were people nearby who I guess had been killed in a mass shooting who just rose up from their graves.
Right. Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
And all the guns that future murderers were holding just vanished into thin air.
Yep.
And they said, God damn these thoughts and prayers.
And their prayer wasn't heard.
Yeah. Oh.
So they asked God to damn the thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Didn't work that time. You think that's what happens every time? Is the thoughts and prayers are canceled out by the other side thoughts and prayers?
Yeah, that's a good point, because if they work for some
So they
people, they
think
should
and
work for
pray.
everybody, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They think and pray, oh, guns are too important.
Yeah. I hope I get to keep my guns, they say.
Oh, Jesus, please save my guns.
So cancels them out.
Okay.
I'll get a pull to that.
All right. What are we drinking on?
Okay, so this is a beer that was brewed by my main man, Joe Rowland. Joe Rowland, who's been a very dear friend of mine for a very long time. We played in music bands for many years together.
He plays a daddy guitar.
He plays the big guitar, plays them daddy notes down low. Indeed,
Yeah.
he does, man. And he is just an A1 guy. He's steak sauce.
He's steak
A1.
sauce. He's
Yeah.
A1. He's Heinz 57.
Uh-huh.
Throw him on there.
He's just a good old boy. Never meaning no harm.
I would say that's true.
I've been wanting to watch some Dukes of Hazzard lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it was because...
Them old Duke
Them old Duke
boys.
boys is at it again.
Yeah.
I was listening to an episode of Ear Biscuits, which
Uh-huh.
is Rhett and Link's podcast,
Red Link's
you know?
podcast, yeah.
And they were talking about like their favorite TV shows or whatever, and they spent a lot of time talking about the Dukes of Hazzard, and it amused me endlessly because like they were saying how I just thought it was called the Dukes of Hazzard, like not Dukes of Hazzard, like Hazzard County. It's the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, I
That's
thought
how we
that
all
too
say it.
when I was little. Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah, Dukes of
Yeah.
Hazzard. I never really
You see it written down, and you're like, wait, what?
Dukes of Hazzard? Yeah, it never made sense to me. So anyway, Joe is just a good old boy. He's never meaning no harm,
Nope.
and he's making himself a pull of his own at home.
Beats all you ever saw. Been in trouble with the law since the day he was born.
Joe's been homebrewing for quite some time, and he gives himself pulls at home frequently.
I bet.
Could you imagine if you make your own beer at home and you can just give yourself pulls whenever you want? I'd be pulling all the time.
I would be fatter. I feel like I would definitely drink way more beer than I currently do because I love a beer. Like beer's so refreshing.
Yeah,
it's
is
not even
fantastic.
about like getting drunk or anything with beer. It's like I just love the taste
It
of
tastes
this.
good.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of them, and you're like,
I am also drunk. Yeah.
I drunk.
I drunk.
So this is Joe's Sun King, which is a new single hop New England IPA he made.
All right.
It's just based on the old Mosaic, which happens to be one of my favoritos.
Big fan.
We had one of these the other night. Actually, gave me one the other night whenever we were watching Razzlemania.
Oh yeah.
Which the best part of the night was this beer.
Okay. WrestleMania not so great this year.
Yeah, honestly though, even if it was a great WrestleMania, I'd say that the best part of the night was this beer because this beer is fucking great. What do you think about that? Isn't that
It
good?
is great.
It's totally got that kind of fruit punchy,
mosaic-y.
mosaic-y thing going on.
I think
Good amount of carbonation.
it's a bit more citrusy than some mosaics.
I think so too.
Yep.
I'm not exactly sure how or why. I don't know anything about that kind of process, but I mean, it's great. Like,
Yeah, that's a good beer.
it's not just good for like, oh, some guy made this at home.
No,
He did
that's
a
a
good
good
job.
beer. I'd
Like,
drink
it's just
that.
really good. Yeah, if I was at the store, I would buy it
Oh, yeah.
frequently.
Mhm.
It's so good. Yeah, way to go, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Where you going
with that beer in your
hand? Gonna get some friends drunk. That kind of fell apart. I'll
did,
need
a little
another
bit.
swing at that one.
Yeah, all
Need another
right.
swing at that one. Yeah, WrestleMania was pretty much a bore. We went
That
over
sucks.
to my buddy Josh's place and just ate a bunch of pizza and hung out. I mean, just getting to hang out
Yeah.
with friends and stuff was the best part, really.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's like we never sit down and literally watch all 6 hours or whatever of
Right.
WrestleMania. It's just a lot of chilling and hanging and laughing at bad bumps and stuff like that.
WrestleMania is what the NFL team owners want the Super Bowl to be.
Yeah.
Like, hardly anything about the It's just a big pageant.
Yeah.
That's just about keeping people's eyes on the screen for as long as you can.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, there were some good spots and stuff in there, but overall,
Yeah.
it was pretty weak. We left before it was over. We didn't see the main match or anything like that, but it was all right. It was good hanging with everybody.
I think the people that do watch WrestleMania, a large number of them they don't pay attention to wrestling regularly.
Right, yeah.
And they don't want to see the big bumps or anything.
Yeah.
They don't want it to get too brutal.
Well, that's the thing is, I only occasionally watch wrestling anymore. I really only watch it for the big events whenever I go watch them with Josh and stuff. I don't really get to watch it on the regular or anything, but I still want to see some hardcore slobber knockers. Yeah, I want to see some slobber knocking, man.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was interested in seeing the Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynn match.
Yeah.
It's the only one that I'm interested in seeing, but the rest of it's, what. I know Kofi Kingston, didn't he win the title?
He did, which was awesome. That's one of those things that, it was actually a pretty good match, too. That guy's a really good performer.
Kofi Kingston's a great wrestler.
Yeah, he was really good. And, we were watching it, and he won. And Josh, who's a huge wrestling guy, he was like, holy cow. He's like, I can't believe he won.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really thought about it, but it's there's not really been a lot of black champion wrestlers. We've always had black wrestlers.
WWE claims, but because they own the WCW and the old NWA stuff, they claim Ron Simmons.
Right.
From 78, I think Ron Simmons was the first person to hold first black guy to ever hold a major wrestling promotion title.
78?
Yeah, and then it didn't happen again for a long time. It didn't happen again until Booker T, I don't think.
I don't even know if Booker T held a belt. I'm not sure.
He held the WCW title for a while, and then when they merged, he held the secondary title. You know how there's the world title and then the traditional
international
belt,
or something,
or whatever it is. Yeah. He had that for a while too.
Okay.
And then also Mark Henry held that belt.
Okay.
But again, that was now the secondary title. It wasn't as major as the title that Kofi Kingston won.
Right.
And
so
then I guess also The Rock is half black.
Yeah, half black, half Samoan.
And he's won several titles.
Oh yeah. He's kind of a big deal.
He is a pretty big deal, yeah. But yeah, it's a huge deal. Kofi Kingston won the fucking title. First black man to hold the title for the WWF. At all.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Good for him. It's cool too. He brought his kids in the ring and stuff.
Yeah.
Pretty badass, man.
Yeah, it's a real cool thing.
What you been watching this week, Steve? See anything good?
Yeah. Last week we did the streaming thing where we watched the Joe Bob stream on Shudder. Joe Bob Briggs's, what is it called now? Last Drive-In.
Right.
And, we did a Facebook chat while we all did it. Well, this week I didn't even think about it, but then Dave Bechet just jumped on the chat and was like, hey, we doing this?
Our man
I was
Dave.
like, all right. I really didn't have anything pressing to do, so I was like, cool.
I hate that I've not gotten to do one of these, man. The first one was when I was in California, and this last one was when we were playing a Skankbanger show. We had a crazy sold-out Skankbanger show.
Yeah.
God, it was awesome.
You could have skipped that.
I probably could have laid out of that. Let Davey Stranger play guitar instead.
Sure, yeah.
So what did you guys watch on the stream?
So they showed Q the Winged Serpent.
Now that is a weird fucking movie. Had you ever seen it before?
No.
That's by the guy that did
so strange.
The Stuff.
Yeah.
Which is also a very normal movie.
I like The Stuff a lot. I think Q the Winged Serpent is probably just more weird and less.
Yeah. It's less of a story and stuff too. Yeah.
And it's so weird because there's so much of it is the cops and people from the city negotiating with a guy to figure out where a dragon is. Also, there's a dragon in a horror movie.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. It is a really strange one. I don't even know if it's necessarily one of those that I'll say, I love that movie.
No.
But I think it's worth watching. That guy,
check it out because it's weird as hell.
Yeah. I can't remember his fucking name. He just died recently.
Yeah.
The guy that
Michael
wrote it
Cohen.
and stuff. Michael Cohen. Yeah. If you've never seen The Stuff, I strongly recommend checking that out.
It stars this Michael Moriarty, who is also the star of Q the Winged Serpent.
Yeah.
And he is insane.
I'm pretty sure he's the perfect actor to make that guy's movies.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't need somebody normal.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Q, it was fine. I didn't really care. But then the second movie they showed was Society.
I've been wanting to hear about your thoughts on this.
I had not watched it yet. That was my first time seeing it. Man, it was great. I liked it a lot. It was weird as hell.
Oh my god, dude.
My favorite line from it, Emily and I both decided we were going to start saying this. Fuck you, butthead.
Yeah, I guess I am a butthead.
Yeah.
How fucking weird is that movie?
This movie's so weird.
I think we talked about it on like one of our videos about like best stuff streaming on Amazon or something like that. And I think I was just talking about
you
it.
were telling me I should watch it, and I was gonna hold off until we were gonna cover it on the show, which I mean may happen in May. We're gonna have a vote.
Oh
so,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Everybody might choose Society as one of our Grime May episodes, but I was gonna wait until then, but I was like, well, it's coming on, and I'm doing this chat thing. I'm just gonna watch it.
Gonna go for it.
I dug it, man. It was weird as hell. Brian Yuzna is an interesting director. His Return of the Living Dead 3 is him, and it's really cool. I like it. But yeah, I don't know, man. It definitely had a lot to say. And Joe Bob had a lot of insight into it. Apparently, one of the screenwriters grew up in Beverly Hills, and he said all of the characters in the screenplay were based off people he actually knew.
Really?
Yeah.
My God, man.
Yeah.
There's just so much weird, icky, gross stuff in the movie. I mean, not even counting the last, like, weird skin melding orgy scene or whatever. The shunt.
The shunt.
How about whenever that guy, like, uppercuts that dude through his butthole and his, like...
Yes!
Fist comes out of his mouth, like...
What?
Holy shit.
That's crazy.
That movie is crazy nuts, dude. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did. I liked it a good bit, and I will be happy to cover it in the future, because, man, there was a lot going on there.
There is a lot going on there, no doubt, man. I watched Anvil, the story of Anvil, the other night.
What'd you find out about them?
What I found out about Anvil is that they were on the break of making it big, right before the big four of thrash metal came out.
Right.
Anvil, like, influenced Anthrax, Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, influenced all those bands, but just never really quite made it over the edge.
Didn't do it.
It was a really cool documentary about, basically what they're all doing now, and them, like, kind of struggling with leading... Yeah, still kind of leading like 9 to 5 kind of normal jobs and stuff like this.
God damn.
But then getting to go out and like tour and play on the weekends, and they still have some hardcore fans and stuff. But then they put together this like tour with a new manager that was just awful.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it was inspiring and sad.
Yeah.
To watch. Like, it was inspiring to see that these guys are all, in their 50s and still just love playing music and are passionate about playing music. They're like, we don't really care if we're going out to play to 100 people.
Right.
We're just going to do what we do. And, so it's inspiring in that way, but also just pretty sad to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a fear that I have constantly. Yeah. Is almost being there.
Right.
Like getting right to a point where you could be one of those that makes it.
Yeah.
But you just don't. You just don't.
Failure to launch.
Yeah, failure to launch, and then it just never takes off ever.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That'd be a bit of a letdown.
It would be.
Dude, I'll tell you what, I am already just like wore out, tired. We just kind of started getting serious about putting our house on the market and stuff, selling and buying a place in the big city and stuff. And so we spent the last like 2 days just really thoroughly like cleaning, and trying to declutter and stuff like that. Dude, like,
getting your Marie Kondo on.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. What's that?
It's a Netflix thing that made everybody throw a bunch of stuff away, basically.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I would like to do that. Yeah, it's that kind of thing, dude, where, you don't realize just how much bullshit junk you acquire until you start trying to hide it from a realtor. But yeah, it sucks, man. The whole process of just like getting ready to try to like sell a house and all that jazz, it sucks so bad. But at the same time, I could see myself being the kind of person that would hesitate and wait and be like, oh, we're not ready yet. Blah.
Yeah.
Because that's just how I am.
Yeah.
Just kind of like I get anxious about change and stuff like that. But like just this whole process sucks so bad that I'm like, let's just fucking rip this Band-Aid and get it over with.
Yeah, I want it to be done, right?
Yeah, it's like I just can't wait to kind of be back to normal life of just like, getting back into a normal routine.
Like, seriously, most of the stuff you do is in Knoxville. All it's going to do is make your life...
Exactly, right.
Just give you an extra hour to do anything other than drive to Knoxville.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I was thinking about it last week, and I think between Kate and I both, like, I believe we made about 10 trips total to Knoxville.
Yeah.
It just sucks. It's like, I'm in Morristown 2 days a week to teach. Just 2 days. Mm-hmm. And then all the other times, I'm at home or in Knoxville.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense for me to live here.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm really looking forward to, like, being in a new place. It'll be easier for you. It'll be easier for all of my work as a musician and stuff.
I was going to say, I think everything you do basically centers around that.
Yeah. So I'm excited about it. It should be easy to sell our place and stuff. So it should be a pretty quick transition. Yeah, I just got to make sure we got ourselves a baller pad, man.
Yeah, well, obviously. You don't want to move into a shithole.
No, no. So I don't know. I feel like we have some specific stuff in mind that we want, but at the same time, it's like, since we don't plan on having kids and shit like that, it's like, we don't need a bonus playroom. We don't need it to be in a zone for the school district we want.
That makes it so much easier.
Fuck yeah, it does.
Yeah. I would say for sure that not having to worry about school district is one of the things that I appreciate most about not being a parent, because like,
That's
I know
an issue,
if I had kids, I would be insistent that they get the best education possible. Like, that's one of the, I think a lot of people that don't want to have kids is because we see like what it actually like the responsibility it actually is.
Yeah, no doubt.
Like, what the fuck? Like, that's because like I know how I would do it.
Yeah,
and it would be so much stress and anxiety.
Oh
constantly.
Yeah, dude. Fuck yeah.
That would be tough.
Man, I'll tell you what, Steve, we're going to be talking about Jacob's Ladder.
That's
today.
the one.
That's the one that we're going to be talking about. People have been asking for this movie for a long time. I've been wanting to see this movie for a long time, too.
Ryan specifically requested this, and he gave us beers, so we're doing it.
So that's what you get.
Yeah.
Use that as a reminder, folks.
Yeah.
You know?
We'll be doing one that Roger gave us.
One hand washes the other.
That's true. That's how it works.
Now, I'm just going to say, I don't even think that we can go forward even from this point before we step into the preview palace.
Welcome to the preview palace.
Without giving up any spoilers or anything about this movie.
Right.
So I think before we even step into our pre-show kind of segment right here, I just want to tell everybody, if you've not seen this movie, you should definitely fucking see it.
You should watch it and watch it before you listen to the podcast. But
yes,
it's streaming on Amazon and Shudder.
Yeah. So you have no excuse.
Yeah, but we're gonna spoil the absolute dog shit out of it, like we do everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do it for yourself. It's a good movie.
Do it for the children.
Worth watching.
Yeah. Really fucking awesome.
Yeah.
One of the main themes of the movie.
Yeah.
Is about what happens to us after we shuffle loose this mortal coil.
Yeah.
So I think before we get into a review portion of the episode, Steve, I would really like to spend some time here with some of those doggone wizards and witches at BuzzFeed.
Yeah, this one in particular must be a Christian witch.
A white witch.
Because she knows if you're going to heaven or hell.
I'd like to know about that, Steve. I'm gonna get us through a couple of questions here, and we're gonna find out just where it is we're going. Into the great beyond. After we shuffle loose a mortal coil.
Oh no, he's back.
All right, Steve, first question we have on the quiz here. Do you tip your servers well?
Yes, I've been a server. Anybody who's been a server that doesn't tip well is a sadist.
I totally agree. If you can't afford to tip, don't fucking go eat out.
Yeah, don't. I mean, the real solution to this is not that everybody in America should know that servers make $2.13 an hour and that they are relying on your tips to make a living wage. What should really happen is the law should change, and that shouldn't be legal, and businesses should pay the servers a living wage, and
that would
tips
be okay.
should just be eliminated completely.
Or that.
Yeah,
maybe it's that. Tips included in the price of the check.
Nobody should have to deal with the goddamn constant anxiety that every asshole on the street can walk in and be your boss and determine your wage for an hour.
Yeah, maybe you're worth $2.13.
Maybe you are.
For the hour that I'm here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fucking garbage.
That is.
People that don't tip are garbage people.
Yeah, but tipping is a terrible, terrible thing. That should be destroyed completely.
Maybe it's that. You might be right, Steve.
I guess if you just want to give somebody extra money, that's fine.
Yeah.
But, like,
But you shouldn't have to have that so you can pay your fucking bills.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah, because, I mean, you could strike out. You could go an entire week with everybody
Sure.
deciding that you make $2 this week.
Yeah, it really rarely has much to do with you.
Oh, yeah.
Rarely, because most servers are competent and get the job done just fine.
Totally, man.
Yeah. Do you put empty containers back in the fridge bin?
I have been known to do this. Well, actually, I'll put it this way. I don't know that I do, but sometimes Drunk Ben does.
Oh, Drunk Ben does that.
Yeah, it's usually not me.
Yeah.
Sometimes he writes checks that I can't cash.
I think the only time that I do this is with the water jug.
Yeah?
You know, with the filtered water
Brita?
pitcher. Yeah, sometimes I will put it back in after I give water to my dog and then go to feed her. I'll put it back in and then I forget like an idiot.
Yeah.
And then Emily wants me to die in a fire. But normally I do not.
Okay. Do you refill the ice trays?
We don't do ice trays.
Yeah. We've had an ice maker since we lived here, but I have lived in a house that had ice cube trays.
Yeah.
And I was very bad at refilling them.
Yeah.
Partially because I rarely ever use ice.
Yeah, when we were in LA, I'm real bad at refilling them too. Because it's like, you know, when I was little, you would do that thing where you'd get a couple of ice cubes and then put water back in, and then the next person that goes to get ice cubes is like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
I
you
just
get all this
spilled
watery stuff everywhere. Yeah, that's a real pain in the ass, man.
It is a real pain in the ass, but God, that's the only time I'm going to remember to refill the ice tray is right after I use some ice.
Exactly.
So I'm real bad at it.
All right. Do you tell people when their fly is down?
I don't ever notice.
I do.
Really?
I look at dicks all the time.
I never ever notice if someone's fly is down.
Yeah?
But I'm very glad when people tell me my fly is down.
Yeah.
It's nice of them.
I think so. Yeah, that's why I do it for other people too, because
Yeah.
I usually do notice.
Yeah. Do you try to pay with exact change when you can? What?
Yeah, totally. I'm one of the few people in America that still uses cash.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, I always use card.
Yeah.
So that is exact change, though.
Right. That's true. Yeah. But whenever you do have cash, do you try to? Or you
If I ever have cash, I immediately use it.
Yeah.
I immediately want to get rid of it because I just don't. I know I'll
burn
lose
a hole
it.
in your pocket.
I know I'll lose it.
Yeah.
That happens like sometimes. I will just like a lot of times. I'll put on a pair of pants I haven't worn in a long time and be like, oh, there's like $20 in here. Like, I forget about it immediately. I've not a great memory.
You need you a good billfold. Keep your folding cash from coming unstalled. It sounds like you need a good old billfold. All right, next we got, do you ever RSVP maybe to Facebook events?
Well, our answers are yup or I try not to. I try not to. Like, I'll just say no if I'm not going to go. But, like, I do RSVP maybe to things that I do want to go to and then forget about trying to make sure I can go to. And
you just kind of described my situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with a yup. I've been known to respond with a maybe.
Yeah.
And oftentimes forget, sometimes not, but usually I'm a terrible person. I'm a trash bag. Total trash bag.
At the laundromat already.
I never go there.
Yeah. Do you take other people's loads out of the machine so you can wash your stuff? Yes, always.
I've never been to a laundromat ever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been to a laundromat a million times. Like growing up, when we lived in apartments, then like in LA.
So like when you take somebody's stuff out of the machine, where do you put it?
In a basket or something?
There's just baskets there?
Yeah, they have like carts there usually.
I guess if I was there, I would do that because I'm not just going to stand around and wait for somebody to do their shit.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just expect it.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like, they'll leave and not come back for hours.
Right,
They wouldn't expect somebody to just not be able to use a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say always because I think I would if I did.
I think you should if you do. Do you post photos that your friends look ugly in, but that you look amazing in?
Probably. I think I've probably put up some like photos of me playing with a band where I look cool and other people didn't.
I do not. Like, if somebody doesn't want me to post a photo, I just won't. Because, first off, I rarely post photos.
I was going to say,
myself.
you're not a big photo poster.
Nope. I just don't want people to know what it look like.
You know what?
trying to be an invisible presence in the world.
Invisible Steve.
I don't know what it is. I just don't think we need to see some person every single day.
Do you ever get freaked out when you look at somebody's like Facebook profile or Instagram page and it's like literally just pictures of themselves over and over and over and over and over?
Yes, I do, obviously, because that is the reason why I don't post because like to me it's so creepy. It's like
me too. It's like going to somebody's house and they have pictures of themselves hanging up.
Yes.
And like they're the only person that lives there.
One time, quick story, Emily and I went to this party.
Yeah.
I won't say where in case somebody who was at the party is listening, but this person had just moved into this apartment with her boyfriend. They had been together for, I believe, 6 months.
Okay.
The apartment was covered in pictures of the two of them.
All right.
Not just covered as in like every room had one. I mean, like every wall of every room was covered in pictures of the two of them.
My God.
They had done something, I assume, every single day they were together to go take a picture. Like,
they're going to run out of walls real fast.
Yes. They
Holy
were already.
cow.
It was crazy. And yeah, like that, I'm always like, I don't think that people that do that are bad. I just think it's weird.
I just think they're not me.
Yeah, they're very strange because they're not me.
That's funny. Steve, have you ever stolen a Twitter joke and pretended it was yours?
No, and I've taken off Twitter jokes when I have found out that somebody had posted something similar before.
Yeah?
Yeah, because even though I didn't steal it, it's not cool. Don't take somebody else's stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
I probably have by accident.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just
I think, well, because people think alike, and a lot of stuff you write on Twitter or whatever is like in the zeitgeist at the time.
Yeah,
everybody's thinking about it.
Yeah. So there's probably been a lot of stuff where it's just like something struck me as funny, but I didn't remember who said it.
Yeah.
That's probably happened.
Oh, yeah, that definitely, because I listen to podcasts all the time. It'll happen all the time that I'll think of something and be like, man, that's real funny. And then I realized, like, oh, right, I heard that on a podcast 3 years ago.
Yo, I listened to a pretty good podcast the other day while I was cleaning up and stuff. I listened to Behind the Bastards.
Behind the Bastards.
Have you listened to that show? It's great.
It's a history show, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I've
just
listened
about
to
like terrible people, like dictators and despots and stuff.
Uh-huh.
They had a 2-part R. Kelly episode.
Oh man,
it's fucked up. It's fucked up, man. That guy
he does want to piss on you.
Probably under a jail.
Probably, yeah.
They talked about his like secret marriage to like a 15-year-old Aaliyah when he was like 27.
Yes.
All kinds of wild shit.
And her first album was titled Age Ain't Nothing But a Number.
All of those R. Kelly song titles get really, really that much creepier.
Yeah.
Whenever you take into account that he's definitely a pedophile.
Yeah, ebiphile, technically. Pedophiles out there would be so upset with you.
What's the difference?
It is a person who is attracted to people who are in puberty.
But not of age.
A pedophile is someone who likes pre-pubescence.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
What's the word again?
Ebiphile. EBO.
Ebophile. Ugh.
Yeah.
Man, a friend of mine showed me a video of R. Kelly doing some kind of benefit concert. It was just a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
And he's in, I want to say it's somewhere like South America or South Africa.
Yeah.
And the band is like jamming and he's like singing this soulful song.
Uh-huh.
And seriously, it's, do you got your passport? Did you get your vaccinations? Do you want to come to America with R. Kelly?
Oh, no.
Seriously. And he just says those words like over and over. Do you have your passport? Did you get your vaccinations? Do you want to come to America with R. Kelly?
Jesus Christ.
It's like nuts. I'll show you later. It's nuts, dude.
I mean, that's like pointing out someone in the crowd to get them backstage. But like
you're gonna kidnap them
to a different country
and put them in a sex cult.
What?
Yeah, it is strange,
man.
dude. Okay, wait, is there the last one? Okay, yeah. Do you ever express strong opinions about a book you haven't read?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah, I absolutely have, because I have 2 degrees in English literature. And that is, I'm not bragging. I'm saying getting a degree in English literature, half of it is expressing strong opinions about books you've never read.
I openly shit on all holy books in the world, and I've not read them, so I have to say yes on this.
I openly shit on them, but I have read them.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've read the Old Testament and New Testament cover to cover.
Yeah.
I've read the New Testament itself so many times.
Right.
I read the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Did you read a Dianetics by chance?
I haven't read Dianetics, but I have read the Bhagavad Gita. I've read the Quran.
Yeah.
Tao Te Ching. I think I've read most of the major.
What you trying
Holy
to read
books.
for?
Well, we'll get into it with this episode, I
think so,
guess.
yeah. There's definitely some literary references all over Jacob's Ladder.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Steve, apparently, sorry, but I'm going to hell is my answer.
What?
Yep, I'm going to hell, Steve.
We answered pretty much the same on most questions, and I got, yep, you're bound for the pearly gates.
Oh, man.
I'm guessing Susanna Cristalli really knows our hearts, and she knows about what you did.
With the ice cube trays.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right.
That was it.
I probably deserve it, honestly.
That's true.
I'm pretty much a trash bag of a human. All right, Steve, now that we have those pressing answers about what will happen to us after we release this
This guy's always showing up.
I think before we start getting into our review portion here,
Yeah?
I need me a poll.
Man, let's get an ultimate poll.
I am beyond stoked. This is going to be the poll of all polls.
This is a brew by Bearded Iris and Burial.
Probably my two favorite breweries on the East Coast.
Okay. And they've done a double IPA that's got some hibiscus, raspberry, rooibos. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, no idea.
Vanilla and lactose. It's called Lunar Fire.
Hot fire.
I am excited for this. And Roger Dean Miller gave us this.
Provided by the private estate of RDM, the notorious 7.5% ABV.
I believe they premiered this just a couple months ago at their anniversary party or something.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And Roger made sure to get us a couple, and I'm excited for this.
What a good old boy he is. He's just a good old boy. Never meaning no harm.
Unless you're a rich asshole.
It's almost the
at
color
a bar.
of grapefruit juice. It has a pinkish tinge to it.
Wow.
Now, whenever breweries do like a collaborative thing like this, I imagine that they're doing it like in tag teams where one of them's like stirring the hops and stuff in the thing.
Yeah.
He's getting
And
like
the other
so
guy's on the corner
exhausted.
just like, come on.
Yeah, come on, tag me in,
reaching
tag
out
me
for
in.
the tag. Yeah.
And he's like crawling towards him, his hands reaching out, it's shaking. He tags him, the other guy gets in there,
comes running and fucking just
hopping the shit out of it. I imagine that's what goes on whenever they do collaborative brews.
You have to assume.
I mean, because otherwise, what's going on? They're just like, I don't know, bring some hops over. Oh, I brought some yeast. Like, it seems like it would be very disorganized otherwise, you know?
It does.
I'm so excited about this. It didn't bring up a big old frothy head.
No, yeah, not much of a head, but it is juicy thick. Like,
Yeah.
you cannot see any light through that.
It smells phenomenal. Like it's like a foot from my face, and it smells amazing. It smells floral and citrusy. How's that treat you?
Oh, whoa. That is way different than I thought it was going to be.
Holy good Lord. Whoa, the aftertaste is crazy.
Yes, it is.
Like initially, whenever I had that first sip of it, it's like, this tastes like something I've had at Burial.
Mm-hmm.
But then the aftertaste, maybe it's that hibiscus or the raspberries or something.
Yeah.
I have no idea what that tastes like. It has like a very much like a raspberry cream savory aftertaste.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It does. Like raspberry cream savory for sure. But
Holy
it's also
cow.
just super juicy.
Yeah. And also
Wow.
7.5% alcohol. It's not even remotely boozy at all.
No, it just tastes like an awesome juice.
A delicious juice bar cocktail. Holy moly. Lightly effervescent. Not very like fizzy
No.
at all.
No. It's grapefruity and cream savory and raspberry. That
Wow.
is dope.
It's crazy because like it really does taste like a Burial beer and a Bearded Iris beer.
Yeah, it does.
It really tastes like
That's
both
what
of
you
them.
get when you tag teaming it. When one of you is stirring while the other's like, how about some hops? Boom!
Do you think they do like cool like combo moves the way that tag team
Yes.
wrestlers do?
I do think that.
I think there's probably one where
I think
like
one of them's like, Bearded Iris, get the table.
I think they do a move where like instead of maybe using like a big spoon to stir everything
Yeah.
together, it's like one of the Burial guys like grabs one of the Bearded Iris guys by like the ankles.
Yeah.
And he's like twirling him around in the brew
and the
tank
guy's
and
just
stuff.
going wild in there, stirring it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they do stuff like that. It makes sense.
That would be great.
Not much of a collaboration if you don't.
Then the Burial guy puts the whole keg up on his shoulders and Bearded Irish guy comes off the top rope with a clothesline.
Yeah.
And then they send it out the door.
They just have several bottles lined up, and whatever lands in the bottles is what they ship out. It's really messy, really wasteful.
That's why it didn't have much of a head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That is fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
that is
it's
one of
awesome.
the most unique beers I think I've ever had. It is quite sweet,
It is.
but
It
also
is
a little
sweet.
tart on the aftertaste too.
It is. It's got so many different flavors going on with it.
Yeah.
I'm digging it.
Fantastic. All right, Steve, the subject of our show today is going to be Jacob's Ladder from 1990. This movie has been around for a minute.
Yeah, a couple.
29 years worth of minutes.
29 years worth of minutes.
That's a whole lot of minutes this thing's been around. This is the first time I ever have seen it. I ain't never seen it before this.
So here's my story about the first time I watched Jacob's Ladder.
Get him.
So I bought Jacob's Ladder on VHS. One thing I knew about Jacob's Ladder is that it was very trippy.
Okay.
So the first time I watched Jacob's Ladder was on LSD.
Jesus Christ, how old were you?
18 or 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the first time you watched this movie, you were tripping balls.
Yes, and then I realized something, because last week I said that this movie had Radon Chong in it.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah.
It doesn't.
Does not. Yeah.
It doesn't have Radon Chong in it.
I didn't see him nowhere. Did you hallucinate him into the movie?
Oh, well, Radon Chong's a lady, first.
Yeah, that's what I said. Exactly right.
She discovered Chris Pratt. No big deal. Actually, no, what I realized was I have seen Jacob's Ladder several times.
Yeah.
I have never seen it not on LSD.
Holy shit.
The first time I saw it not on LSD was watching it for this.
You're kidding.
And I didn't know the story of the movie.
Which cut
I
did you
only
like
knew
better?
it-
The LSD cut or the
The
non-LSD
LSD cut was pretty dope.
Not gonna
I
lie.
watched it
Pretty
several
awesome.
times.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good enough to warrant multiple viewings.
Oh, there's just things stuck with me, just like
Yeah.
visual aspects of the movie and just like certain
and
lines and things. But
Wow.
I didn't know the story at all. So when I sat down and watched it, I was like, oh, this has like an actual through line. There's a real story to it. I had
Holy
always thought
cow.
it was just like crazy dreamlike imagery.
Like Tree of Life.
Yeah. So
Holy shit. So how
I
was
was
it watching
happy
this?
to find out it has a good story.
I was going to say, yeah, how was it watching this, like a...
It's
Like a
less
normal
trippy
human.
than people say it is. Honestly, watch it on LSD if you think it's trippy.
Yeah. Then you make it
Come back
real
to me and
trippy.
watch it regular. It's not that trippy. It's
Holy
just like,
cow.
oh, okay, this all makes some sort of sense.
So I watched this for the first time the other night. It's one of those that like everybody had always told me was really amazing.
Yeah.
I had heard it referenced millions of times as far as being very influential and very important, and also, and again, spoiler territory for real. Watch this movie, so we're gonna spoil it.
Yeah.
But I went into this movie knowing that he was dead the whole time.
Okay.
Somebody along the lines spilled those beans.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is the movie, I don't know. It's like the narrative of the movie is super unreliable.
Yeah.
And it kept me guessing the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I was thinking about a different movie.
Right.
And he isn't dead the whole time because it seems like he's having these flashbacks and he's living a life and yada yada. Like I expected it to be like, let's say like Sixth Sense. Like at the first of the movie, whenever he's on that subway train and he asks that woman if they've already passed up that street,
Yeah.
and she doesn't talk to him, I was like, oh, because he's a ghost. But then other people
Right.
start talking to him, and I was like, maybe he's not a ghost.
Yeah. Maybe that lady was a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was the lady
But
from
she did
Suspiria.
have a devil tail, so.
I thought it was the lady from the hallway in Suspiria with
Oh,
the shiny
right.
knife.
Yeah.
I thought
she
that was
does
her.
look like her.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I went into this, again, still knowing kind of the twist of the ending and everything, and was still fucking riveted. I
Yeah.
really, really, really liked
Yeah.
this movie, man.
The movie doesn't hinge on the reveal that he's dead the whole
No,
time. In fact,
no.
that's the denouement of the movie. Like that's the part where we're just like, yeah, we already know he's dead. Like we
yeah.
get that.
Well, there's people telling him he's dead the whole fucking
Yeah,
movie.
and then he says, "I think I'm dead." Like
Yeah.
there's like so many times where he's being told he's dead or he thinks he's dead.
Yeah.
The reveal that he's dead is not a reveal. It's just sort of a finality to the story. Like,
Right.
yes, he's definitely dead.
Right.
All of this has been him in the process of dying,
Yeah.
going through seeing the angels and demons of his life, going through heaven and hell, and coming out as just dead, like
making amends with unfinished business, and guilt and regrets and stuff.
Yeah,
really,
and the biggest regret,
brave.
of course, being the death of his son Gabe,
Macaulay.
not Gage.
Oh right, yeah.
But Gabe, who was killed, unlike Gage, he was killed by a truck. Oh wait, no, they're both killed by trucks. Wait a second.
But Macaulay Culkin was way less annoying than Gage.
Yeah,
he was
for sure.
adorable in this movie.
He's so cute.
Oh my God.
You can see why they put him in everything.
Yeah.
This was right after Uncle Buck.
Yeah,
which
pre
is
Home Alone.
Yeah, pre Home Alone, right after Uncle Buck, and then The Good Son. I think was like 93 or something.
We got to do that on the show.
The
one
Good
day,
Son.
too.
Yeah, I was thinking like that. That's our other opportunity to cover a Macaulay Culkin movie, because that was pretty good.
Yeah. So this movie has a lot in common with other truly fantastic horror movies that we've covered on the show in the past, like The Shining or like Poltergeist, in that it's not really made by a crew of horror movie makers.
Yeah, no, this is Adrian Lin, who was the director of 9.5 Weeks, Fatal Attraction, Indecent Proposal, movies about romantic relationships with a very strange element to them.
Yeah.
And I guess this is some of that. Like, his relationship with Jezebel is one of the central elements of the movie, but like that it doesn't have as much to do with the plot.
Mm-hmm.
It really is just that it's sort of like Jezebel is a reminder to him, or a way of getting him to realize that he's not alive anymore. They're like, you know, Sarah's not there anymore. He's not a part of this family anymore, but he doesn't really seem to remember what happened. Mm-hmm. And we never get that. We never get a divorce moment.
Right.
All we see is like, we see two sides. We see him with his family and with Gabe still alive, pre-Vietnam, and then we see him with Jezebel post-Vietnam.
Yep.
But there's no in between. No matter how much it flashes backward and forward, we never see any of that. So like, it's interesting the way that that dynamic plays out. But yeah, it's also written by the guy who wrote Ghost, which is another movie about a romantic relationship.
Came out like a couple months before this.
A couple months before this, yeah. It's real interesting how this movie got made. I mean, we talked a little bit with Pet Sematary about how like there was a writer's strike in '88 and stuff.
Yeah.
A lot was going on, a lot of moving and shaking in Hollywood at that time. Mm-hmm. And Ghost and Jacob's Ladder were actually bought by Paramount in 1986. After Wes Craven released, I've never even watched this movie. It kind of bombed, but it was more metaphysical than movies had been before. And the thing people have been worried about buying Ghost and Jacob's Ladder, either script, was they were too metaphysical, too weird, too hard for audiences to get, they thought. And then Wes Craven releases this movie I can't remember the name of. And for some reason, even though it didn't do well, Paramount was like, okay, we think audiences might be interested in this type of movie if we do it the right way.
So they just snatched up whatever scripts they could.
Intending maybe to make it in the future. And then a bunch of big-time directors are interested in it. Michael Apted, Sidney Lumet, Ridley Scott were all interested in making the movie.
Wow. Which I think this could have worked as a Ridley Scott movie.
Oh, sure,
Ridley Scott in his fighting weight.
Yeah.
This could have worked, actually.
Yeah, for sure. What ended up happening is Paramount got bought out by a new company, and their vision changed, I guess. And they gave up on the movie, and then Carol Co-Pictures came in and swooped in, and $25 million budget. They got Adrian Lin, who was just off of Fatal Attraction, I think. So like, he was a big time,
big name
guy to get. And they made this movie, and it unfortunately didn't make enough money. Like, it made a little over budget, but certainly there are more costs than just the budget. They never include the advertising in the budget.
Sure, yeah.
I think mostly so that they can screw anybody who's getting some points on the back end. But they definitely didn't make enough money off this. So this is one of those movies from that 90s period that I always talk about where I think horror movies could have really gone somewhere interesting. Like the Clive
totally.
Barker, like Hellraiser stuff.
Mouth of Madness.
Mouth of Madness and this. And like stuff was getting so weird and metaphysical and like just about absolute hell.
Yeah.
Like the idea of just like going full evil.
Sure.
Man, it would have been real cool if those movies had made money so that we could have seen how that would have played out.
No kidding.
But apparently people just aren't as interested in these type of movies.
Well, I imagine that this is probably a pretty tough sell for the advertising department.
Yeah.
Because it's like, who do you sell this movie to? It's
Right.
a very deep philosophical movie.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, it's like, with all these horror elements, I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to get the Philosophers Guild in there to watch this movie.
Right.
At the same time, people that were going to the theaters to watch Freddy and Jason,
They're not going to want to see
they're not
this.
going to want to see this. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
this story about a man who's broken by both the death of his child and the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
going
exactly.
through hell. Like, yeah, that's just, it's a hard sell, for sure.
But at the same time, it's like, if they did sit down and watch it, there's stuff in this movie that is absolutely nightmarish.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, some imagery and stuff that is far beyond the levels of horror that you see in typical, what you think of as normal horror movies.
Right.
There's some truly terrifying stuff in this. So I have a feeling they had just a hard time deciding who to sell this to and how to advertise. Of course, I was 6 whenever it came out, so I don't really remember what the advertising for it was like.
I don't remember seeing any advertisement for it until it came on VHS. And I remember it being in the video stores. I remember just seeing the cover and always thinking like, that looks weird.
What did the cover look like? Because I've heard a lot of people say that the cover of the VHS box was crazy. Do you remember what it looked like? Did it have one of the faceless people on it or something?
No, the one I'm remembering just had him and he was kind of surrounded by, was it like ladders or stairs or something?
Okay, kind of like a MC Escher kind of look or something.
Yeah, I remember it looked weird, but it didn't, because like, those early days of watching horror movies, so much of it was about finding the ones that had boobs in them, like
right,
and that just it just looks like.
Also, this has tons of boobs in it.
It doesn't. I didn't think it would. I remember as a kid thinking like, nah, I won't watch that one.
Boob-free zone for sure.
But then as an adult, being like, all right, what's
lots
up?
of boobs all over this thing.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I'll say, like,
it's actually interesting because it's not sexy at all ever in this. Like, it's just like, oh, she's nude.
Well, the way that they just handle domestic partnership.
Yeah.
And
pretty,
how
pretty true to life.
Yeah, it is. It's like you said. Like, well, I mean, what's her name that plays Jezebel?
Elizabeth Pena.
R.I.P.
She did die in 2014.
That sucks, man. She is obviously gorgeous.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But the way that they play the nudity and stuff in the movie is just very matter of fact. Like you're getting dressed and you're talking to somebody.
Yeah,
and you
it's
haven't
like my
buttoned your
wife
blouse
getting
up
ready
yet.
for work. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I mean it's great and cool and all, but it's also just an everyday activity.
Yeah, it's just the rhythm that you're in when you live with somebody.
Yeah,
especially an apartment living like they are, where you're up close and personal.
Small
all the time.
apartment like that. Yeah, you're going to be seeing each other all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so all that stuff was handled really well. But yeah, again, lots of boob in this movie.
That's true. Yeah. Also, just for fun, a demon fucks a woman.
That happens too.
Yeah, same woman.
So if you're into that,
but that's also a hallucination. I mean, nothing that happens in this movie actually happens except for 5 minutes of the movie that is sort of spaced out.
Yeah.
Everything is what a soul supposedly is going through at the point of death, and this all comes from the I'm going to give the full title. It is known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Oh.
But the title, I guess, would most likely be translated as Liberation Through Hearing During the Intermediate State.
Boy, you're really just swinging those literary degrees around now.
What are these?
Those things are dragging the ground behind you.
A person tells you they got a literary degree, you're like, wow.
That guy's hanging.
Do you have a job or?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so it kind of takes inspiration from that. I don't know nothing about it. I never read that.
Yeah, so Bruce Joel Rubin, as a young man, he went over to Southeast Asia and the Middle East and took a lot of hallucinogens.
Oh.
Also lived in a Tibetan monastery for a couple of years.
Wait, hang on. But enough about Bruce Wayne, who would become the Batman. Thank you. Moving on.
Wait a second. Is Bruce Joel Rubin the real Batman?
I'm just saying. You just kind of told me bat stories.
Wow.
I know.
Wait a second. But yeah, so he was doing a lot of hallucinogens and learning about other religions, and boy, I really I connect with that. That's what I was doing in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Well, I guess late teens and early 20, because I became a Mormon before I even turned 21.
Wow. You
yeah.
became a Mormon before you ever even bought legal beer?
Yep.
You've led a crazy life, Steve.
My first legal drink was
at the age of 30?
29 or 30, probably, yeah.
Jeez.
Crazy. Yeah.
Life will take you on some unexpected
It
journeys,
will.
I'll tell you that. So what did this guy learn on his way through?
Yeah, so
tripping balls?
basically the Tibetan Book of the Dead was also used by Timothy Leary, Ralph Metzner, and Richard Alpert to write a guide for LSD trips
Bunch of damn acid head
called
hippies.
The Psychedelic Experience.
Wow.
And so what this movie and what those things are basically about is a guide through the experience of what it's like to die.
How do they know? Did they
Well-
Nikki Six themselves?
I think I would say for sure that it is definitely more about hallucinogens than it is about actual death.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is about the experience of the death of the ego in a hallucinogenic trip.
Wow.
Even I'm saying the Tibetan Book of the Dead is probably more about that than the actual experience of death, because again, yes, how would you know? But what you do experience in a hallucinogenic trip is this feeling of dying as an old person, dying, your ego completely sort of being shred away, and then becoming this new person. Mm-hmm. And so the Tibetan Book of the Dead is more about death and rebirth and reincarnation. And this movie is definitely more about this death and rebirth and becoming something new.
I don't get how these Tibetans wrote this book, because as far as I know, the Grateful Dead wasn't around back then. What were they listening to?
Oh, man. Well, chants probably,
Were
right?
they chanting, touch of gray?
Did you guys notice how everything looks orange? It's weird. That's
Man
what those
alive.
chants are.
Oh, yeah?
Are them slowly saying to each other things that people on acid say.
I'm tripping balls.
This movie's so weird.
Yeah, like if you sped it up 15 times, you
Yeah.
hear just legitimate stoner talk.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm on board with that. So you think this movie takes a lot of elements from that? From what you're
Yeah.
saying about the ego being shredded away and becoming a new person, kind of sounds like that talk that Louis
Yeah.
has about,
Yeah.
burning away
Yes. And
your connections to
Louis
life.
is the angel guiding him through this. Louis is the only one who exists between heaven and hell, who is able to fix him. That's what he says, and I love, I remembered mostly images and then everything Louis says from
Wow.
my times watching it as an LSD taker.
Danny Aiello?
Danny Aiello,
Danya.
yeah, he says some things that it's all sort of coded, but whenever he does, the first time he goes to Louis and he's doing the adjustment, wherever he does that thing that makes him sort of flash back, and
Yeah.
suddenly he's back in the forest, seeing
Back in the
red
jungle and shit.
flashlights
Yeah.
and stuff. Or yeah, back in the jungle, not the forest. Louis says at that point, I had to get in there. Deep adjustment.
Yeah.
And then there's that bit of interaction where he says to Louis, have I ever told you look like an angel?
Yeah. Like
And
a
Louis
overgrown
says,
cherub or something.
every time I see you.
Yeah. You
Which,
say that.
the way I see this is that this movie is like a spiral. Like, it spirals out of control, and then he sort of ceases to exist. He dies. But, what Louis seems to indicate with every time I see you is that this is actually a process that keeps happening over and over and over.
Yeah.
That he keeps interacting with this soul over and over and over and helping him in this same way. He comes in this chiropractic form.
Yeah.
Just to help him through heaven and hell.
Are you saying like maybe even in past lives or something?
Yeah. So reincarnation is definitely like an idea here, but it's also like the idea of having multiple trips. Like each time you take a hallucinogenic trip, you're going through this same process of birth, death, or rebirth after death, and becoming this new person. So like it could indicate that this is in fact that acid trip, and that he is going through, because we learn later that we're never sure what anything that we learn in this movie is true.
Sure, yeah.
But we do sort of learn later that the army was experimenting on this particular platoon with a hallucinogen, and so they had put this hallucinogen in the food. So he would, if that is true, been experiencing both the hallucination and the experience of dying.
Right, yeah.
So he would be going through both of those processes.
That's something that I thought about too. And I mean, I have questions about whether the whole drug plot is even real.
Yeah, it might be fake completely.
That might not have even have happened.
Yeah, he may. Yeah, all of that stuff could just be just what his brain invents as he's dying.
Yeah, and I have some ideas about that and how he could have come up with that and stuff too. Or the line about him saying, "You say that every time you see me." I mean, maybe that's the kind of thing where if Tim Robbins in his lifetime, in his solitary lifetime on Earth, has had like other near-death experiences, where he has almost died,
right,
and seen Louis and been brought back. Or something.
Because the movie is full of angels and demons.
Yes,
it is full of people, and it has some people like Jezebel who are more complicated. Like Jezebel would be hard to say as an angel or a demon. Like she is, I would say, mean about his kids and his ex-wife. Yeah. But she also does seem to care about him a great deal.
Well, but also at the same time, whenever you take into account that line that Louis says about how, the thing that burns when you're in hell is your attachments to your past life and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And after you realize that what looked like the demons that were burning you alive,
angels.
Yeah, freeing you and helping you move on. So early on in the movie, whenever you see Jezebel and she like takes those photographs of his kids and like burns them, and she's like, I don't like things
so
that make
demonic. It seems evil.
And she's like, I don't like things that make you sad, and she incinerates the photos. Yeah, you're like, oh my god, what a fucking horrible person. But then you realize it's like she's helping him move on.
Yeah.
So it is kind of ambiguous.
Yeah, she is helping burn away those old things so he can move on.
Yeah.
But she's also there for him, in the moments when he has the fever and stuff. She's there for him afterwards when he's been sitting in the apartment for 2 weeks. She's there to be like, you need to go out, etc. Like she's constantly pushing him, but she can seem from some perspective to not be good, but she's just as good or evil as anyone else in the movie, honestly.
Yeah. The cast of this movie, in addition to
it's insane,
to Danny and Pena, there are so fucking many people in this movie. You think of it as a small cast movie. You think about Tim Robbins, obviously.
Right, yeah. Mostly it's Tim Robbins and Elizabeth Pena.
Yeah. But there are so many just little bit part cameos all over the fucking movie.
Ving Rhames is in this movie.
Yeah, Eric LaSalle
is in this movie. Louis Black is in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't even catch him. I guess it's like a young Louis Black.
He's the doctor whenever they put him in the tub. Yeah. He's the doctor that shows up when he comes back from his
and he's like, you got an angel looking out for you or something like that. I had no idea that was
Kyle Gass is in this movie.
From fucking Tenacious D.
Yeah.
He's in like the platoon at the first, right? Mm-hmm. I, again, completely missed him. Didn't see him.
Interesting thing I didn't notice at all until just watching it a little bit before I left was the guy from that episode of Seinfeld that is the Seidler.
Seidler.
Yeah, he's the guy who keeps like every time Elaine pitches something to Peterman, he'll be like, great, you two get on it. And then she looks over and suddenly there's this guy here. So she gets him some Tic Tacs.
Yeah. He's
that guy's in there, and it's like almost like in Seinfeld, that was the joke, was like he just shows up and it's like, wait, where did he come from? And then he's gone.
What the fuck?
Yeah. It's when they're in the office, the lawyer office with
George Costanza. Yeah.
It's crazy. I was like, what is he doing
The Seidler, what is he doing in
Yeah.
there? I didn't notice that at all.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody in this it's just crazy. Like, Esipatha Murkerson's in this. You might know.
What were those noises you just made?
You might know her from almost 400 episodes of Law and Order.
Good Lord.
And being in just looking at everybody's IMDb, it's like, yeah, these are all professionals. Like,
Wow.
even at this point, some of them hadn't had much,
Yeah.
but they've all worked constantly their whole lives. They got real actors who knew what they were doing for each of these parts. And it's crazy when you look at it, because that's like, it's almost like 20 people that show up at some point in this movie, and they're all like, they've all had careers since then.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No
Good.
doubt.
I mean, great casting. Way to go.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And Tim Robbins, of course, is our main character, Jacob, in this movie. And I think that with a movie like this, considering it is just so much just torture and agony laid upon this guy, Jacob,
Right.
it would be really easy for this to become like let's say like a Gaspar Noé movie, where it's just
Right.
like, you're just showing me punishment and depressing, awful things happening
Gaspar
to people.
Noé did say that this was a big inspiration for Enter the Void.
I 1,000,000%
Yeah.
believe that. Only this movie rules, and Enter the Void fucking
Yes.
sucks. I hate that movie so much.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to
God
watch
damn it,
it.
I hate it so bad, dude. Oh, that movie
We should
fucking
do it for the
sucks.
show.
Fuck no, I'll never watch that movie again. I mean, seriously, you'd have to pay me so much money to watch that movie again and even talk about it.
You heard it, guys. It's going to be a pay episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's going to be a fucking triple pay episode.
Right.
Fuck that movie. Yeah, I can definitely see this being an influence on him. But, you know, this whole movie would be this very brutal, depressing watching experience if not for the fact that Tim Robbins is so enjoyable as a dude in this
He
movie.
is. Yeah, Tim Robbins is just a real easy guy, I think, to immediately connect with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's got this, like, this childishness to him at times, and this kind of impishness, and he's kind of like...
Yeah. This was his first major, like, dramatic
Was it
role.
really?
Yeah, he wanted to do something like this to show, like,
Yeah.
I can also do drama.
This is like after Bull Durham?
Yeah, Bull Durham was 88, so...
Okay.
Yeah. And that was... He was doing comedy.
Yeah.
Even though that's not... I guess that is a comedy. Bull Durham is a comedy, but it's got a lot of drama to it.
But, you know, in this movie, he really displays such a huge range of actions and emotions.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's kind of like nutty and lovable and stuff at
Right.
times. At other times he's like flipping out and like wanting to see his doctor
Right.
and kind of getting like PTSD rage going
Right.
on. And then other times we see him in just these moments of extreme vulnerability. I mean, that shot where he wakes up in the bathtub and it's just on his face and he's
Yeah.
crying and his eyes are like red and stuff. It's amazingly captured.
It is.
And even just him like begging for his life and like not understanding what's going on. Like when he's in the crazy hospital scene and he's like, where am I?
Yeah.
Like, I want to go home. Like he seems so
You're
helpless.
not anywhere. You're dead. Yeah. That's a real interesting moment too, because like that is the point, I think, where he's at his most tortured, maybe, is in that he's being like taken into this like
taken into hell.
sub basement. Yes, a hell.
Yeah.
As he's going through it, it looks like I don't know how to explain it. It's like the psychiatric hospital from Nightmare on Elm Street, where Amanda Kruger gets raped.
Kinda, yeah.
It's like that, but there are also like children there, and then there's like a woman with like webbed
Yeah.
feet, and then a woman breastfeeding what looked like a dead baby.
Yeah.
And, like, it was pretty fucking insane.
Lieutenant Dan was in there. He got no legs.
Yeah, there was a feller with no legs or arms for sure.
Do you know what the main inspiration for all the freakish, weird stuff you see in the hospital was?
Was it H.R. Geiger?
Well, okay, that was one visual influence for the movie.
Yeah.
The photography of Joel Peter Witkin.
I know.
Yeah.
And Diane Arbus.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
a huge influence on
Two people
the
we've
look.
mentioned in the past.
Yeah.
Diane. Well, I don't know if I ever mentioned Diane. Diane Arbus took the photo of two twin girls that some people say
Influence
Stanley
Shining.
Kubrick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like,
Joel Peter Witkin did some images of like a guy with no legs
Yeah.
and a bag over his head. And
Yes.
his head was like moving in the photograph, so his face was like blurred, which
And
is
that's a
in the
big
movie. It's
deal
in the
yeah.
movie. Yeah, it's like it's straight up copied. for the
Also,
movie.
one of the inspirations was pictures of children deformed by thalidomide.
Oh yeah, I read
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I read about that, which was
And
like
the photography of Francis Bacon.
a morning sickness drug for pregnant women that ended up deforming a bunch of kids.
That was terrible and caused terrible deformities and took them too long to get off the market.
Hey, good thing that kind of stuff never happens anymore. Am I
Doesn't
right?
happen anymore.
Yeah.
We got regulatory agencies and all sorts of things that fix all those problems.
They're looking out for our best interest.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
In a for-profit medical industry, that's exactly what they do. Yeah, the cast in this movie is seriously amazing, and I think that if you would have had somebody else playing this role, I think it would have been a tougher sell. They wanted a bunch of different people to play Jacob. They had Tom Hanks, Richard Gere,
Tom
Al
Hanks
Pacino.
Tom Hanks was the most interesting name on the list for me. I was thinking. I mean, I think he could have done it.
Robin Williams could have done it.
Yes, Robin Williams could have done it for sure.
Yeah.
Robin Williams was constantly showing us how depressed he was by acting so wonderfully when he had to be depressed.
Yeah, exactly right.
And we didn't catch it because they were like, but sometimes he's really funny.
I even like the fact that Tim Robbins is such a huge dude, and yet
he's so tall,
vulnerable and innocent in this movie. I think makes it more pitiable to see the horrible things happen to him. Yeah, very much so. Very much.
But
like
that's actually true of all the soldiers, like Ving Rhames.
Yeah.
When we see him early on, when we see them all early on, of course they're doing their masculinity thing where they're like, let's talk about each other's dicks, yo. Hey,
I ain't got any tweezers.
Hey, sex and dicks and stuff.
It was all improvised dialogue at the front of the movie, by the way. Yeah,
that's
apparently
funny.
so. Which also, too, the way that the movie opens with that Vietnam scene, very well done and gruesome.
Oh yeah, so good,
dude. Whenever it shows a couple people walking around just shredded limbs.
Yes,
and stuff.
one of the shredded leg was
the worst.
Insane.
Holy cow, man!
All practical effects, no post-production effects. All things were either done in camera or with makeup. So
it's wild.
The person fast-moving head going back and forth. They shot at a low frame rate and then just showed it at normal rate.
And dude, this is that's something I kind of wanted to talk about is how influential I think this movie was.
Extremely.
On a lot of stuff. We have seen the whole fast, twitchy, shaky head thing.
Yeah.
In 8 million movies. It was all over Saw, for example.
Yes.
And this
Saw took a ton, by the way. Just so many shots are definitely
straight out of this.
Out of this.
Definitely. But this is the only movie where this shaky head thing has actually worked for me.
Yeah, it looks right. I think most of the time they probably do it in post-production and it doesn't look right. Whereas this, just shooting a person normally moving their head back and forth, low frame rate, show it at a regular rate. That looks weird. Computers can't do what film can do that way.
Yeah. It's extremely well done and has been ripped off 80 million times since then, man. Mm-hmm. This movie was also a huge inspiration for the first Silent Hill game.
Well, not just the first Silent Hill game, also franchise. The Silent Hill movie.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Which, I played the first Silent Hill when it came out, a million years ago. And now looking back on it and remembering how much of that game takes place in that abandoned hospital that's just murky and gross. And I think there's even faceless people in that game, if I'm not mistaken. It's very obvious how much this that franchise took from this movie, man. Because it is truly hellish and crazy. And it's also just balanced by the fact that so much of the movie looks and feels completely normal. It just feels like gritty shitty
It is.
New York
It's just
City.
normal stuff, like going to a party, a couple, taking a shower, just normal stuff.
And it doesn't have crazy colors and filters and grime.
No, it just looks like... I guess it's supposed to be set because his discharge says 1972, I believe.
Yeah, I want to talk about the timeline of this movie.
So that would mean that, basically he came home, got divorced, and moved in with Elizabeth Pena. But when we see his kids,
they've not aged.
Yeah. So it's... I guess it's still 74 or something.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's like out of time completely, and it's supposed to be, obviously, just to make you feel like, wait, when is this?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is no when. It never happened.
Correct. Yeah. Well, it's all limited to how far his imagination that can't accept that he's actually dying and he's imagining his own future after the war.
Yeah.
He can't imagine past, 1974
or 5, something?
when he was in the war.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting to see the way that they play that. I mean, he can't imagine his kids older than they are now. He's never seen them older.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Man, I like the interesting thing is like the conceptions in this of things you would go through as you die. I mean, it of course would rely on the idea that you have a period of time before you die.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you get shot in the head and your head explodes, there's no instant before you die. You're just dead.
But if you get bayoneted and you're bleeding out,
if you're bleeding out, then this would happen. So like, well, at that instant, time would basically cease to exist. Like as you cease to be able to perceive time, your perception of time would slow down.
Well, here's the thing
maybe
about it.
You would go through something like that.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I think that this movie is actually all taking place over just a few hours worth of time.
It is. Yeah, because we see him, he gets stabbed during the day, gets found at night, and then he dies the next day.
Exactly. So
this all happens over a few hours.
But you feel like the, quote, post-war stuff is taking place over weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
But I think that's because, well, as you know from your dreams and stuff, you'll have a dream that seems like it lasted for an hour, and then somebody wakes you up and you're like, oh, you just dozed off for about 5 minutes.
Right.
Or like, do you ever have that experience where maybe like when you see somebody who's about to knock a glass off a table and your brain moves through so many motions so fast.
Yes.
It's like in half a second you're going, oh, that's about to fall. Maybe I can catch it. I'm going to have to clean that up later.
Yeah.
Oh no, he spilled his juice. Like your brain goes through so many motions so fast in times of urgency.
Yes.
That I think that his experience, which feels like it lasts for weeks, was just taking place over a few hours' time.
Yeah. There's a book called Biocentrism that I read in grad school.
Oh, again with the reading, huh?
Sorry. But it talks about that. It talks about how, like, our perceptions, like, all we have to work on are our perceptions. This has been a philosophical debate forever, but all we have to work on are our perceptions. And we do have those instances where time can seem to slow up and suddenly be like everything is in slow motion.
Sure, yeah.
And then sometimes time seems to fly.
Yeah.
Since, the only way that we know that everything exists is through our own perception, we have to then just believe that time actually does that.
I'll tell you what, I know that time feels like it comes to a standstill every time I'm down at the DMV. You ever notice how long it takes to get anything done down there?
Let's talk about airline food, am I right?
Oh, what's the deal with the way there's...
You ever think about this? Because I've flown a lot of times.
Yeah.
I've only eaten one meal on
I've
an
never had
airplane.
an in-flight meal ever.
It was a German... it was Lufthansa. I was flying Lufthansa from Germany to Moscow.
Yeah. How was it?
Great.
Yeah?
It was wonderful. It was a wonderful meal. I don't know, like... But of course, if it was back in the day, in the 80s, when people made those jokes... Every plane you got on, there was an expectation of a meal.
Yeah. That's so weird to me.
And then it was like, well, for some reason, it's also bad.
Yeah. Fuck this meal I got for free.
What? Hold on.
And you didn't even have to take your shoes off to get on the plane? Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah. You have aerosols in your carry-on bag? Oh, that sucks.
But anyway. Like,
you got to carry your gun on board? Sucks for you, huh?
The concept then with biocentrism is that like the universe does all these weird things because of our perceptions. Our perception makes the universe as much as the universe makes our perception. So like in that sense, like, all of these things could happen in your brain, perhaps.
Yeah.
Like you could go through all this and experience what would feel like weeks within a matter of hours.
Right.
It's possible.
Right.
Sure.
The fun thing about the timeline of this movie that I realized after it was all said and done and after it was over is like while you're watching the movie and you're thinking that the post-war stuff is what's actually happening, and that the Vietnam flashbacks are what happened in the past.
Right.
It's like every time that he gets, his back cracked and he's waking up in the jungle or whatever, you think, oh, he's having a flashback. Like, I even thought for a minute that, like,
but
the
he's
reason...
actually snapping in
real
reality.
Time. Yeah, exactly. That's him coming in and out of dying the entire time. So you realize the only thing that's in real time is what's happening in Vietnam, which is really awesome. But, again, me kind of doubting that I understood what was going on, I was thinking, like, maybe the reason why, whenever he gets his back cracked and he has a flashback is because, hallucinogens and LSD and stuff is, like, stored in your spine. So maybe every time he's cracking his back, he's making him have a flashback. Or
Old
like
wives' tale.
Yeah, it's like that. I was thinking, is that what they're kind of playing at? Because that's kind of lame, but it turns out that's
I think a lot of
wrong.
people who take LSD and watch Jacob's Ladder probably think that.
Yeah.
LSD's got one of those, like, weird mystiques about it where everybody's heard so many things about it that simply aren't true. Like, taking vitamin C somehow helps. Like, that was the thing.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Just take a bunch of vitamin C while you're on LSD. It makes the trip better. How? In what way?
What's the interaction there?
What science is this? It doesn't.
So here's the thing that I want to ask you about that's just kind of like a constant debate with this movie, which I think is part of what makes it so good, is like, again, I'm just going to call it the post-Vietnam stuff.
Right.
The characters that we encounter, like Louis and Jezebel, do you think that these were actually people he knew in life?
Well, there's the indication that is the situation because he talks about working with Jezebel at the post office in his time with Sarah, and Gabe is still alive. So if that's a memory he had of a nightmare he had, then maybe. But then maybe his mind is just trying to make sense of who this person is. Because in his dream he works with her.
Yeah. Well, see, other than his friends, the vets and stuff.
Yeah.
Our main characters that we interact with are Louis and Jezebel.
Yeah.
I almost kind of think that both of those characters are more archetypes.
Right. They're not actual people he knows.
Yeah. Kind of like how, have you ever had dreams where, you'll be talking to somebody and you recognize them as your brother, but it's actually Chris Pratt.
Right. It's a completely different person. They're just representing your... Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like the body and the identity don't necessarily match.
Yeah.
I kind of think that in a lot of ways that Jezebel kind of represents maybe the entire spectrum of every female he's ever known, all wrapped in one, because she is at times very mothering to him and very caring. She is at times very childish to him.
Right.
She is obviously very sexual.
Right.
So
she's like, she represents all females. She's the female figure, and then of course Louis represents all males.
Right.
And he is
the
fatherly,
father, the teacher, the healer.
There's no sexual element to it, so it doesn't involve any sort of insecurities or whatever. Yeah.
And I think the fact that this Jezebel character just happened to take the form of maybe this lady he worked with that he was attracted to.
Yeah.
I mean, that is almost kind of an archetype of itself. Just kind of like the what if.
Oh, yeah.
fling.
We all have those dreams where it's like, I was suddenly back in high school and there was this girl I didn't remember, but like, we were having sex.
Yeah. It's like, I think that the fact that she took the form of this lady he knew from the post office, I don't think that that's necessarily significant. You know what I'm saying? I just think that that's what the archetype got rolled up into.
Right.
And the same with Louis. Like, I think that Louis is the male archetype of his entire life. And maybe even his interactions with his Vietnam friends in the post-Vietnam segments of the movie, maybe that is just his concepts of like friendships and relationships.
To really look at the Vietnam friends, like, they all share so many traits that it's almost like they definitely aren't there. Like, their real characters aren't shining through because they're all so much like him. They all have seen these demons. They're all like shaken by it. They're all seeming to have trouble except the one guy.
Yeah,
there's
the
one guy who's like, no, I'm fine.
Right. That I've not been able to make a ton of sense of.
Yeah.
It's like I kind of think the way that the vets, his buddies and stuff in the movie act is almost like how maybe his friends and stuff have acted his whole life, where it's like there's moments where they're tight and they're buddies and they're walking down the stairs of the courthouse together, and then they can just up and leave also.
Yeah.
As friends sometimes do throughout your life.
True. Yeah.
You know, just suddenly on and off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my impression of it. I think that everybody in the post-Vietnam portions are not necessarily real people he knew in life.
Right.
Well, that also explains, too, why, like, Jezebel shows up later as a nurse for some reason.
Right, yeah.
But then he's never like, why were you in that operating room?
True. He does never bring that up, yeah.
Because it's just like in a dream, you know, identities change, faces change, all these things happen that don't make sense. I think that that's what's going on with those personally.
All right. Yeah. I think, yeah, you're probably right there. That it's just a bunch of archetypes. It's not like, even if they do have the face of someone he knows, they're not that actual person. They're representative of some archetype in his life. Yeah,
I think so too. And all of those characters and stuff in the movie have very deep biblical kind of relationships. There's obviously tons of biblical names all over.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, Jezebel is obvious. Yeah, Jacob's ladder is from Genesis chapter 28, where Jacob is fleeing his brother Esau, and he sees a vision of angels ascending and descending from heaven on ladders, and there are tons of different interpretations or meanings behind it. And I think the one they're going with here is the interpretation that there is an intermediate space in between heaven and hell,
like Lost.
Yeah. But what the good thing is here that was in, like, that sort of stuff was in Bruce Joel Rubin's screenplay, but Adrian Lin wanted to downplay that and make the demons more of a non-denominational thing, less related to one particular religion, and more of something that would frighten all of us. Yeah, so that we can all buy into this heaven, like, because, you know, most religions have some conception of heaven and hell, right, and angels and demons. Yeah, so, like, the less specific you make it, the more effective it can be for everyone. Yeah, like, totally. Yeah, I think that's a much better call. Yeah, but they kept the title Jacob's Ladder, which it seems to indicate that would be a big portion of the movie. But, like, I just didn't see it. Like, that vision, I've read that vision a million times and seen all the different interpretations. I just didn't see how that particular bit of Genesis really related to this movie. Yeah. But then reading more about the production, it seemed like the screenplay had more of that, had more of the specific, like, Judeo-Christian connotations to it, but they just kind of took that out. And one of the indications of that is that the angel of all this, Louis is not a biblical name. Right. Yeah. There are characters in this that don't have biblical names. The ones that have biblical names, everybody in his family, and then his potentially invented girlfriend, Jezebel. Yeah. Who is, I mean, Jezebel is supposed to be a prostitute in scripture, so, like, in this case, she would be representative of everything that draws him away from his family, and that is one thing she does constantly. Right. Is she tries to eliminate the names of his kids. Says his wife looks like a bitch. Yeah, she just calls Gabe the dead one. Yeah, which really affects him each time. Like, you can see it on his face that he doesn't like that she does that. But, like, yeah, she's the attempt at erasing his old family, drawing him away from it, and then meanwhile maybe demonic in some sense, but in this case it's actually angelic. She's trying to help him realize he's dead. Yeah. And then also too, you have the fact that his wife in his living life, her name was Sarah, which is the one that God made a new covenant with, and so on. So there's definitely a lot of, you know, again, very obvious angels and demons kind of references there. Now, the way the demons in the movie are portrayed, I think, is fucking phenomenal. It's so good. It's amazing because you just think it's him having PTSD or like a weird acid flashback from the stuff that happened to him at the very first of the movie when they're all tripping balls and freaking out and convulsing and going crazy and stuff. You just kind of think it's like, oh, he's having some kind of a flashback. He's on the subway and he sees that guy with like it's like a penile rat tail sticking out from underneath his like coat. Yeah, so weird. He sees the horns on the back of that receptionist nurse's which is so gross and like, weird, man. Yeah. And of course the demon, he keeps seeing people with weird faces. Yeah, like, man, that scene where he's down in the subway, and I love that he's
he's underground, he's subterranean, and he can't leave the terminal.
Yeah.
It's like that's purgatory right there.
Yeah.
It's also kind of explicit that one of the first things he sees is that like poster that says hell.
Yes.
It says ecstasy, like a transcendental experience, or hell. Yeah. And he's down there in the subway and he's crossing the tracks, and when that train goes by, it's so subtle, and it's also like trusting that the viewer is watching so much because the train is going by at full speed.
Yeah, so the faces would be blurred.
Yeah, but it's also trusting you to be looking in the windows and being like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Nowadays, dude, I feel like that train would be going by and it would do a close-up of Tim Robbins' face and he'd go, oh my God.
Right.
And then it'd do a slow motion on a face in the window and it would shoot him the bird or something.
The real genius of that is that, of course, their faces would be blurred as they're going by. So you could be like, okay, whatever. But
he's just tripping out.
Then he sees the last face in the window looking backwards.
And it's like waving at him.
And it's just like completely blurred and no facial features. And it's like, that is not because it's moving fast.
Yeah.
That actually that was the inspiration for the whole movie. Was Bruce Joel Rubin had a dream where he got off of a subway and the doors were locked and he couldn't get out.
Yeah.
And so when he woke up, he was like, "That sounds like hell." Like,
no doubt,
it does. It sounds like. Can you imagine? Like, what would you even do? Like, even what he does. Where he starts walking across the tracks, like I would be like, and he does this real well, where he's stepping real gingerly because it's like, what can I step on?
Yeah.
Because you'd be worried about what's electrified and what's not. Like,
which is kind of funny that ultimately the first thing that he does as he's in the afterlife is try not to get killed.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think is a huge message of this movie is that the human spirit just has this will to keep existing.
Yes.
And can't understand not existing.
Right.
You know? I think that's a huge thing throughout the movie. Yeah, dude, the way those demons look is just amazing, and it's subtle. And like I love how, like, let's say even during like the dance sequence at the party and stuff, where Jezzy is getting like fucked by that demon on the dance floor.
Yeah, like she's dancing with a guy, but he's like, it's either he's hallucinating or this is what he's seeing because it's hell. Yeah. Basically, the guy she's dancing with turns into this huge demon and then impales her with his demon dick.
Yeah, like the horn like jets out of her mouth. But the whole time there's like this strobe light going, and you're just seeing it. It honestly reminded me a lot of like when you see the monster wall in Mouth of Madness, where you're like, what the fuck am I looking at? It's just glistening and lumpy and skin-like and vaguely humanoid. Yeah. But also like vaguely H.R. Giger, spines, bats, wings, what the fuck ever kind of imagery going on. Like you're never really sure of what you're looking at. And it makes it so much trippier.
It really does. It's like...
And it makes you doubt if the narrative is reliable. It's like, is he seeing this or not? Like, is he just seeing flashes of some guy in a sweat-soaked tank top that is making it look like weird, glistening demon skin in his freaked-out mind? It's like, you never know if what you're seeing is real or not.
Yeah, that is like a genius thing of keeping the viewer from... Because, like... You want the viewer to be able to guess a little bit ahead so that you can stay with it. Yeah. But you want to keep, if you're dealing with something like this where the idea is that even the characters don't know, even the narrative doesn't know, you want to keep the viewer constantly on their toe. Yeah. And that scene is just perfect at that, where it's like, is this or is this not happening? Then you find out he has 106-degree fever. Yeah, and you're like, it's easy to dismiss. Yeah. You're like, oh, well, that wasn't happening. So then when something else happens, you're like, wait a second. Does he have a fever again? Like, what is happening?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're constantly doubting if what you're seeing is really happening or not, the same way that he is, too. Yep. So it also makes you sympathize with the character very well. That's another one of those deals where the editing is truly masterful in this. If this was edited by somebody else, it could have turned out really bad. Like the fact that, okay, I'll put it this way. Before I saw this movie, if you told me this movie has a scene at a really crowded apartment party where people are dancing to a James Brown song and there's a strobe light and it's also one of the most fucked up things you've ever seen in a movie, there's no way I would have believed you. Yeah. Like, you say that stuff, it's like, there's no way that's good. Yeah. It's fucking good.
It really is.
That scene is phenomenally disturbing.
Since you brought up the James Brown song, let's talk about the music of this movie, because it is
Unbelievable.
awesome.
Unbelievable, man.
It reminds me at times of Angelo Badalamenti's like Twin Peaks stuff.
Yeah?
But like, I don't know, like this music just sticks with me.
It's phenomenal.
It's very haunting, but
Very.
also like, I don't know, it draws you in. It's haunting while wanting you to come to be haunted.
Well, you know how I talked about, whenever I was talking about like the Elm Street score and why I think it's so cool?
Yeah.
This has very similar elements to that, where like that piano score that kind of opens the movie, that is so like haunting, and like you're not even sure what emotion you feel when you listen to it. It's like, is this melancholy, or is it really sad, or is it really ugly? Like, I don't know.
Should I be afraid? Should I be worried? Like,
it's beautiful and really fucked up, and even like harmonically, it sounds like what's going on is, you know, to try to put this into like terms that make sense, it's almost like the piano part and the chord progression it's outlining are starting off in one key, and your ears kind of normalize to it. And then when it moves to another chord where you kind of expect, like, okay, this is where you expect a happy sounding major chord to be.
Right.
Then the melody will get to a part and reveal that it's, okay, actually, never mind, it's a sad minor chord. And now you're in a different key entirely. And then you'll think you know where you are, and then it modulates again. It mimics the flow of the movie.
You're right. I was gonna say, so it's just like the film.
Yeah, it's exactly like that, where you think you know what's happening with this piece, and then it just changes. And all of the non-score stuff is cool too. Like, even that, there's significance in the fact that James Brown song was playing. That was on a double album called Hell by James Brown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is fucking rad.
That is cool.
Really, really, really cool. Yeah, score in this, I could not be happier with.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
I'd love to figure out how to play that on the gritar. I'd like to figure that out.
Maybe you got something to do for Halloween this
For
year.
Halloween?
Yeah.
Maybe I do, man. Maybe I do. Yeah, soundtrack was absolutely awesome. So one of the things in this movie that I kept thinking about afterwards... you know, again, after having understood that the entire timeline of the movie is this guy just got stabbed in Vietnam.
Right.
This entire thing is him trying to make sense of death and his experience and what he's going through in just a few hours, even though it feels like it's taking place over weeks and weeks.
Right.
I think that essentially this movie and the experiences we see him go through and what he perceives as opposed to Vietnam life, I think are just... him trying to deal with and make sense of his own death, because I think that every human wants to die with some sort of meaning. There needs to be gravity towards this situation. There needs to be a reason why I die.
Right. It's why we want to die with our loved ones around us, so that it has some sort of meaning.
Yeah. Or, you know, it's like whenever you just have thought maybe about like how you expect to die. It's like, oh, you think, I'll die of old age after I've accomplished so much and done this and traveled the world and written my book and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's like, I expect to die suddenly in a car crash, never know what was about to hit me, and die instantly.
And if we do know a person who says that, we worry about getting in a car with them.
Yeah, absolutely so.
Because it's like, okay,
let's call an
you've
Uber.
got a plan.
Yeah, and I do not intend to be a part of it. Which I think is also very significant that they chose to center this around the Vietnam War, where so many people died for literally no reason. I mean, you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of people whose lives ended in a way that was unceremonious and made no difference to history.
It meant nothing.
It meant nothing.
It literally meant just perpetuating the military-industrial complex.
Yeah,
it had nothing to do. It had to do with stopping communism from succeeding, because if it ever succeeds, it means capitalism is bad.
And that means America was wrong.
And it means America was wrong.
That's all it's about.
Yes, that's why we always stop every communist or socialist regime from succeeding, because if they succeed...
God forbid somebody else do well for themselves.
Everything we've done in the name of capitalism has to come back to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that they chose to center this around the Vietnam War, I mean, they could have chose anything. It could have been a World War II story or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Could have been, yeah.
But I think the fact that they chose to...
this is slightly based off of an occurrence at Owl Creek by Ambrose Bierce, which I believe had something to do with the Civil War. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Is that like a short story or something?
Yeah, short story. And then like there was a 1962 short film made about it that Adrian Lynn took a lot of inspiration from.
I'll have to check that out. But I think that this movie is about a guy who suddenly, finds himself in Vietnam and suddenly finds himself dying. He's stabbed unexpectedly. He's obviously very taken aback by it.
Yeah.
And he realizes he's dying. And I think that this whole movie and the post-Vietnam experiences and stuff he sees are just his expectations of how his life would have played out. It's him going, I had plans. That after I got back from the war, maybe he was going to leave his wife. Maybe the damage that was done whenever Gabe
from
died
losing
was
Gabe, he just couldn't be with her anymore, yeah.
Maybe he wanted to have a boring job where he never had to think or use his philosophy degree as a postal worker. Because they call him professor and he has a philosophy degree and stuff. But he also mentions, I just wanted to turn my brain off after Vietnam. I didn't want to think anymore. Yeah. Maybe showing him being a postal worker is him just being like, I crave a normal, mundane life. Right. Where I can get away from all the shit I've been through.
That's what it was. He was getting away from all of his problems. His problems were thinking and having to deal with his son dying. Yeah. Leaving his wife, leaving his job, just being in a new world was a way of not having to deal with that trauma.
Yeah, that's what he had planned on doing after the war. Yeah. Because I imagine if you suddenly, well, hell, you've had your throat cut. You've almost died before. Yeah. In your head, were you going, I had shit I planned on doing. I can't die right now. Was that something that crossed your mind?
I'm purely full of anger.
Yeah, honestly. Really? Yeah. That's something I've never really got to ask you about is as somebody who has had a very near-death experience, were you just like, this fucking guy?
No, I wasn't even angry at that guy. I was angry at the world. I became very angry at the world. It was the thing that made me realize that, I have to stop pretending like I can't do something about the world sucking. Oh. Yeah. And I did. It was one of the things that made me stop becoming Mormon.
No doubt.
Was the thinking that I have to do something and speak out about these things, and then realizing wait, Mormons don't agree with me. Yeah. They don't agree with me about human rights violations and things like that. They may voice some attempt at agreeing, but when it comes down to it, they'd rather pay their 10% to their church leaders and believe that money is going to help people, but it's going to build temples filled with gold chandeliers and shit.
Right, yeah.
It made me realize, life is you have to fucking live it. You can't just skate by. Mm-hmm. You can't, and that was what becoming Mormon was about for me. Wow. Was about finding a life philosophy that was stable and didn't change. Mm-hmm. And realizing that philosophy doesn't work and that stability is impossible in philosophical terms. Yeah. You can't do it. You can't be... Things constantly are in flux. Right. And just realizing all that, near-death experience, it made me angry. It made me just wow, fuck this. You know what? I'm alive still, so I'm going to fix shit. Yeah. Now, have I fixed anything? No. Probably not. Maybe I've helped a couple people. But honestly, what do we... any individual can't fix all the world's problems. Sure. But you can fix some people's problems. And that became the most meaningful thing to me, was individual relationships and trying to change the shitty things that happen to people. Wow. Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
I don't know. Whatever.
And I even wonder, with the whole thing that comes up again in the post-Vietnam portions of the movie about him finding out that the government was testing this new hallucinogenic drug and stuff like this. I don't even know that any of that happened at all. I just think that is him trying to find... There has to be a reason why I died. And also, too, the big thing is here, there has to be somebody to blame for my death. Right. Okay, so he sees himself get stabbed by another soldier. It never shows who stabs him.
Well, no, he sees him. He sees him.
I didn't think it ever showed that it was another soldier.
Near the end. Okay. But that actually doesn't have to be a part of a bigger conspiracy. That did happen a lot in
Friendly
Vietnam
Fire, sure.
Because of guerrilla warfare and not knowing who's coming through the leaves.
Yeah. And because dudes were tripping balls sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Heroin use and use of all sorts of things. Pretty common. So, that could have been his brain's way of making sense of the fact that he got stabbed by another American soldier.
Yeah.
Was coming up with this whole big conspiracy about
this is why this happened.
Yeah.
Again, I think there has to be somebody to blame here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's our brains need everything to fit together.
Yeah.
In a nice, neat little way.
Yep. There has to be a name to attach to what bad has happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens over and over. It's like every time there's a tragedy, we make the perpetrator of the act famous.
Yep.
Because we have to put a name. Who's the person that shot up that school? Like, we have to know.
Yeah, we got to know that particular person's name,
Yeah.
so we can be angry at that person, as if being angry at that person fixes the problem.
Yeah. But even the way that this thing plays out, where he finds out about the government, trying these hallucinogenic drugs on them, and that's why they all, killed each other, and this bad stuff happened, and his life spiraled out of control. And then so he rounds up the gang, and they get a lawyer, but then ultimately the government, wins essentially.
Yeah.
And nothing comes of it. Like,
that's anger inducing, but
yeah, but I think
Did it even happen?
that's also his expectations about how his life has gone coming into play. I think it's him saying, I'm going to stand up to the bad guy, and then still losing. I think that's his expectations of how it would go.
well, yeah, I mean, definitely, for sure. I highly doubt that he got a degree in philosophy and then volunteered for the army.
Yeah.
So they
Definitely got
made
drafted.
decisions about him. Yeah.
You know what? That's a good point too, and that would also point back to why in his death experience he's blaming the government, is because ultimately he was probably drafted.
Yeah.
And the government is definitely why he's there. Like, I don't see Jacob in life being like, I've got to go fight that Charlie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see
unless
that being
the
the
death
case.
of his son just made him
Yeah, just be like, fuck it, I want to get away.
But that's a weird way to escape.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think it's probably, he was probably drafted. He did feel like the government had taken control of his life.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, it is possible that he is hallucinating when he sees himself getting stabbed by another American, and that he never saw them, that it just happened and whatnot.
Well, right whenever that attack starts happening on their camp or whatever at the very first of the movie, there's like all this smoke and stuff rolling around.
Yeah.
Like maybe there were some kind of nerve agents that got deployed.
Yeah, and
that maybe
it does.
fucked them up.
I mean, that final card that mentions
that fucking final card.
Yeah, it mentions the drug BZ, which is actually a neurotoxin that no government would ever use on their own soldiers to make them be super soldiers.
Yeah.
Though our government did test BZ throughout the 50s and the 60s to be used as a neurotoxin against the enemy, and surprisingly our government has very often tested those neurotoxins on our own soldiers.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have done it on a platoon that they had deployed in an attempt to turn them into super soldiers.
Right.
Because all it would have done was just make them hallucinate and be incapacitated.
Right. Yeah. Not going to turn them into Captain America or anything like that. Do you think that the drug was real? Because that whole like title card at the end, I don't know, man.
Well, yeah, because it definitely wouldn't have been
there.
BZ. It mentions BZ, and it wouldn't have been that.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think in the end that the drug was what happened, because all the things that he sees happening, like, would have just... I mean, we're under the idea that they just got there, right? Like, they haven't been there for long.
I don't know. I didn't take it into account.
It seems to me like he has not seen combat up to this point. So this is the first moment he's been fired on. His recollection of what's going on is going to be suspect.
Sure.
Because he's under a tremendous amount of stress. So yeah, I don't think anything that happens is in his journey through this purgatory actually did happen. So yeah, like, I think one thing that actually might even be, though, is like, so Bruce Joel Rubin said this about the movie, and I think this is actually probably related. He says the horror of the movie would be in the revelation that hope is hell's final torment.
Ooh,
and
damn.
So, like, the idea that he's getting this information about this drug and the army drugging him is his last hope.
Yeah,
It's his
there was
last-
a reason I died.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
reason that all this happened. And it's his last hope. It's his last torment is the idea that maybe there's something more than just the fact that I died in this jungle.
Well, and also the idea that this wasn't fair. The
It
fact
wasn't
that I
fair.
died wasn't fair.
It
I
wasn't.
Had plans.
It wasn't fair and fucking not even worth it.
Right.
Yeah. So just worthless deaths.
The way that last little title card at the end comes up, though, really is a bummer.
It's
really
intrusive,
wish,
yeah. It seems to try to throw some meaning on the movie that doesn't
that
need
isn't
to be
there.
there.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like the epilogue in Suspiria, right? Where
Right,
it's just
yeah.
like, man, you discredited what you told me the movie was about.
Yeah.
Shit. Because the movie goes through this whole beautiful process of explaining life and death and letting go and what it must be
Right.
like to die and let go of how you thought your life was going to go
Yeah.
and your unsolved or unresolved issues that you had in life. Yeah, and your guilt and your grievance and stuff. Beautiful experience of that, and him finally just coming to finding his son that passed away. He's home, he's in his apartment, and he walks up the stairs. Like, beautiful.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, did you know the government messed with our soldiers? It's like, man, did that have to be there?
It's like you could make an entire different movie about the shitty things our government has done to its own citizens. Like, why undercut the good message of this?
Yeah.
With that, and maybe, I don't know,
With a conspiratorial message.
Maybe it is to just throw you off that one last time to make you think
Come on.
but like
I
there's no
hope
reason
not.
for it.
Yeah, the rest of the film is so masterfully made. That just seems really cheap to do that at the very end, to be like, one more time.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm making this
Well,
up.
did you stick around for the final scene when Nick Fury shows up and brings him into the Avenger Initiative?
Oh, shit. No, I missed that.
Jacob Singer, he says.
Damn
You
it.
think your ass is dead. Well, guess what? You travel between dimensions. You're an Avenger now.
You're inside the Tesseract. Shit. Yeah, to me, if the movie was about a guy who got injured in Vietnam and is living with these hellish hallucinations as a result of this conspiratorial plot, like if this was like conspiracy theory with Mel Gibson,
right?
Then to end the movie with that makes you go, damn, those poor soldiers.
Right.
But this
that's
movie,
not what the movie's about.
No, this movie's about death and acceptance and moving on and so on, and what it must be like to die unexpectedly.
Our government certainly takes the blame for the death of all those soldiers, but it doesn't need a drug involved, and it doesn't need to be called out at the end of this because it's already been called out throughout the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree that it wasn't necessary.
But God, the rest of it's really good.
It's such a good movie, isn't it?
I do think it's a little too long.
Yeah, I feel like, because like just before I left, I watched it again, but kind of scrubbed through.
Yeah.
And I would just wait for moments where I was like, well, I know what's coming up isn't like really integral to the film. So scrubbing through, like I got through it pretty quick. And so there were definitely cuts that could have been made that wouldn't have hurt the story at all and would have sped it up just a little bit.
Yeah. Like the whole thing, I mean, honestly, the whole stuff with him getting the gang back together and trying to fight the government, and that ultimately just fizzling out and not really meaning anything. Like I said, I do think that is just a remnant of his expectation of how this would go.
Well, and that's also the hope bit. Like, they keep finding new things to hope for as they go. But, like,
right. Still could have been clipped out.
The original cut of it was 20 minutes longer.
Wow.
And most of the stuff that got cut was horrific shit. So
yeah,
I wish they'd maybe cut some of the less horrific shit and left those other 20 minutes in.
Yeah, because that is one thing about the movie, is that the movie opens up and pretty much right from the get-go, you're seeing these like hellish hallucinations and bizarre shit.
You see just a completely destroyed arm, a destroyed leg, just people.
And then demon stuff. And
demons out of nowhere.
Faceless people and all this jazz.
It's crazy, yeah.
But then it's like, there's probably about like maybe a 40-minute span of the movie where like nothing.
Yeah, it's just pretty calm.
Yeah, it's pretty normal stuff happens. Like the pacing of the weird stuff is kind of uneven. I mean, on one hand, I could say it makes it more rewarding and shocking when something weird does happen. On the other hand, I could say it made me forget I was watching a horror movie at times.
Sure.
But
yeah.
maybe that's just me wanting a movie to fit into a certain genre.
Yeah. Yeah. This
You know what I
is.
mean?
Yeah. It is worth discussing whether or not this is fully a horror movie.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. This one, it's right there with Seven and Silence of the Lambs, where it's just like like it is a horror movie. All three of those are horror movies, but like they don't fit with any other type of horror movies. They don't fit within each other's sort of genre.
There's no big baddie in this. Like there's no villain per se.
Yeah, so this one's even weirder than those other two. Like this one is just like the villain is death itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And then even at the end, that turns out to not really be a villain at all.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing. Is like you said, even Jezebel seems horrible, but then you realize she's just trying to help him move on.
Yeah, she is.
At the end of it. So it's very, very ambiguous to say what kind of movie this exactly is, you know?
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was cool in the movie that, again, you kind of understand more of looking back on it is like, have you noticed like throughout the movie in the post-Vietnam stuff, he's kind of afflicted with a bunch of different ailments. He has these
a bunch
horrible
of stuff
back
happens.
pains.
Right.
He gets sick. He has this like 100-something degree fever out of nowhere. I kind of think that those are things happening to him on like the operating table or as he's being airlifted and stuff that
those
are
are the
affecting his
pains
trip.
he's feeling as all that's happening.
Yeah, well, because it's like you've had dreams where like if you've ever had like a fever dream and you have a dream where you're like on fire or you're like being frozen in a block of ice.
I grind my teeth in my sleep. I have dreams where my teeth turn into powder.
Like, exactly.
Like real physical situations turning into your dream itself.
Yeah. Or do you ever have like let's say maybe somebody's alarm clock goes off and like there's music playing and then in your dream you hear that song and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back and watch this again and see if there are things from the Vietnam sequences that are happening in real time that are bleeding into his hallucinations
that
and
would
stuff.
be interesting to see. Yeah.
I mean, because I've heard lots of stories about like when you get certain types of injections of adrenaline and stuff like that, how it feels like ice water is going through your body.
Oh.
And that could be him as he's in the tub of ice and he's freezing to death and stuff like this. I wonder how much of what he goes through in the movie is what is happening to him in real life, as he's bleeding out in the jungle in Vietnam or as he's being airlifted on a chopper or having, God knows what administered to him to try to keep him alive.
Right.
I think a lot of the stuff that happens to him in his dreams, quote dreams.
That's just the physical or the mental manifestation of something he can't fully processed because he's in the midst of dying.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. Now, you said you had a kind of an idea about war movies and horror.
Right. Why aren't there more horror movies set during war, Ben?
It seems like a pretty perfect place to make horrific things happen. I mean, you have people at their most extreme, intense moments of the human experience. It seems like a pretty good time for a baddie to prey upon them.
Here's my answer to that question. All war movies are horror movies.
Well, there you go.
We just made it a completely different subgenre, but it has all the same trappings of a horror movie.
Yeah.
Look at Saving Private Ryan. Look specifically near the end there when they're in that church tower and the German guy slowly stabs Adam Goldberg to death while another soldier watches and does nothing.
That's
one
like
of the most horrific
things
that would ever happen.
Yeah.
And it's like we just don't, and we hardly even process it because everything else going on is so fucking insane. Like, horror movies are horror movies.
Well, it kind of goes back to what we've talked about when we talk.
They're about glorifying war.
Yeah. Propaganda movies and stuff. Well, that kind of goes back to that whole thing that we talked about like, why don't people consider Silence of the Lambs to be a horror movie?
Right.
Because everything in that movie could happen and it's realistic.
And it's horrific.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, I think that people watch horror movies that take place in this way that's like the bad stuff you're seeing happen is worse than anything that could happen to you in life. So it's somehow comforting to know that things will never get as bad as me being chased around by Jason at Camp Crystal Lake.
But if you watch
The Strangers
or Lambs or The Strangers or something, it's like that could happen and has happened.
Like that's way less fun and in no way makes your life feel safer. Like I think on one of the very earliest episodes of the show, you talked about how yourself with your anxieties and stuff. It's like that's why you like horror movies, is because you're like, well, life will never get that bad.
Yeah, I can control it. I can watch this and see how that plays out and just know, like, well, it's never going to happen to me.
But when you watch guys in the Vietnam War carrying their own limbs and their muscles and tendons and stuff to shred it off, it's like, that could happen. Yeah, I mean, like, if we went into a bad enough war and a draft went into effect, that can happen to tons of people for no reason.
No reason whatsoever.
At all, you know? So I think that in itself is probably why those very real-life situations never really necessarily translate into direct horror.
Right, because horror, the genre that we recognize as horror, has built into it, it's a fantasy. Yeah. And if it is too real, it's no longer horror. We can't call it that anymore because what we're experiencing is as close to the actual reality of this horrific thing happening.
Right.
Like, our brains can't even process it as potentially fun. Like, well, that's why there's disgusting.
Such specific subgenres as, like, anytime you have, like, let's say rape revenge movies, like I Spit on Your Grave, or not Street Trash,
Last House on the Left.
Last House on the Left and stuff like that. Like, those are exploitation or rape revenge movies. Yeah. There's nothing more horrific than the shit that happens in those movies.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like you said, there's no fantasy element. That stuff that really happens.
Stuff just happens. Yeah, it's just a display of a horrific thing that happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there is no comfort in knowing, well, this is fantasy.
But this definitely fits into horror because of the fact that we find out all the horrific things weren't happening.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we discover, this is his experience.
Yeah, the Vietnam War did happen.
The Vietnam War was real. I'm not claiming I'm no Vietnam War truther. Never happened, man. Never happened.
Prove it to me, man.
True, I ain't never seen nothing.
Show me the headstones, man.
All you'd have to do is play Fortunate Son, and they'd immediately be like, all right, yeah. Every Vietnam movie starts with that song. It must be real.
And, you know, and again, I don't want to try to sound too fucking philosophical or deep here, but I also think the fact that they chose to set this around the Vietnam War, I mean, like I said, I said that earlier because I think there's just so many meaningless deaths that happened in that movie, and probably a lot of people that were lying there bleeding out in the jungles are like, why did I die? Why did this happen? Yeah, I had plans. Yeah. But also I think the fact that essentially what happens is this guy comes back from the Vietnam War as a ghost, I think is very significant on a social kind of standpoint.
Like, even though he did come back, like, he may as well have died.
Yeah, because that's exactly what happened to so many of our Vietnam vets that got drafted into a war they couldn't care less about and came home and got treated like shit and called baby killers. And that's why I have so many Vietnam vets that are homeless and stuff. You know? Well, yeah, obviously. But, you know, I think that's also significant. And I think a reason why they chose to do that. And I will say, man, that going back to that timeline and stuff that we were talking about before, it's played so cleverly because as I was watching the movie, knowing it took place in 1990, I was kind of watching this going, okay, late 80s New York. Right. It's grimy, it's dingy, it's ugly, it's dirty. It never said what year that stuff was taking place. You just knew that it was after the war. It was after he'd come home. It seemed like he was pretty well established. You know, in his job and his relationship with Jesse and stuff. So you kind of just naturally go with the flow and go, well, I know when the movie was made. It seems like he's pretty well established in his life. It's probably been several years after the war.
Probably
so you're thinking
mid-'80s, late 80s.
Mid-'80s, yeah, exactly. But then, again, knowing what I did about the movie at the end, going back on it, it's like his mind's imagination of his post-war life was so limited in scope and based around what he knew of time at that point. Like when he goes to that party and people are dancing to Lady Marmalade and James Brown, it's 70s music, early 70s music, because he doesn't know what music is going to sound like after the war.
He never sees anyone check a digital watch.
Right. Yeah.
Which was a major indication in the early 80s that it was an 80s movie.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Digital watch. What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, it's like pretty much all the cars that are driving around. Like when you think about the car,
Yeah, they're
like
probably
chasing
all
them
late
down,
70s models, yeah.
it looks like
Yeah.
a 70s cop show or like mob
Yeah.
movie car. It's like a big Lincoln or Chrysler or something like that. Like it doesn't
Right.
look like an 80s or 90s car. And one thing that I found was really fucking clever, and it only made sense to me afterwards. So do you remember towards the end of the movie, he gets in that taxi cab and he's like, take me to the Bronx or whatever.
Right.
And the guy's like, I get lost in the Bronx. There's this shot that just seems so pointless.
Where it just shows his taxi driver's license?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
And do you notice what was above it?
No.
A picture of Richard Nixon.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't.
So
he
it's like
didn't
Nixon
know.
now. So it must
Yeah.
have been for that election. So yeah, that would have just been like 72 or something. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Or it's just that in his mind, Nixon was still president because
Yeah.
he couldn't think.
yeah,
His
'cause,
mind
like,
couldn't make
who would
sense.
have been president?
Yeah, exactly. You can't just
Yeah.
know that.
I mean,
kind
you
of shit.
could kind of guess who might be president coming up because people are already starting to run for it, but like you couldn't guess who's going to be president in 2024.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know who's going to be running, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So that's why in this cab driver's cab, there's a
yeah,
picture
it's
of fucking
still going to be
Richard
Nixon because he doesn't have any conception. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool.
And it gets confusing too again with the kids, where he's just like he can't imagine what his kids are going to look like.
Yeah.
and
So they always look the same size.
they always look the same.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's true.
It's really fucking cool.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's a beautiful movie.
I love
really,
it,
really
man,
do.
yeah. I really love this movie. Are you excited for the remake?
No, fuck no. What's the
It's-
point? Why? Why are
Are
they
you-
making a remake of
Are you
this?
excited for a remake that doesn't even have a release date yet?
No.
The release date was February, but then they had to push it off.
It's like already filmed, right?
I believe so.
The
yeah.
fuck? Why are they doing this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why? Are they gonna like change it?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't wait until next year, so it was 30 years later or something at least, to be like, it's been 30 years, but like,
Let's do this again.
right.
But what's the point of remaking a movie that has a twist? Like, why?
Yeah. And like what would you, I guess you would put him in the war in Afghanistan or Iraq, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Equally
Fucked up.
useless loss of life.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah. But like, I just don't know. Like, I don't know how most of this would have played out if you have cell phones and computers and stuff. Like,
Well, especially
so much
as
of it
quick
would-
as technology ages now.
Yeah.
We mentioned this before. It's like you see a movie with an iPhone with a button on
Yeah,
it.
and you're
you
like,
know
"Geez."
when. Yeah, it's like, oh, this isn't
like
new.
5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So technology is not going to help this story.
Yeah, not at all. And then if you're just making a remake and it's still in the 70s, it's like, well, why are you even making
Why
it?
even bother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think somehow it would make more money this time? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think that we're in a time right now where people want really thoughtful horror movies that deal with tough things like war. Mm-hmm. Like, I think what we're looking for more is horror movies that deal with individual, like, family issues. Like, It Follows deals with like individual issues. Hereditary deals with family issues. Like, we're dealing more with like things that are local now.
True, yeah.
We're not dealing with war as
Right.
as a thing or death as a thing.
Yeah.
It's just not the right landscape for it.
No, not at all.
Maybe, you know, in a few years when we're in some horrendous war, maybe it'll be a good idea.
Right.
But
I don't think this is the time.
yeah, I don't think this is the time. It's a weird time.
No. You got any other thoughts about this flick, Steve?
No, I really like it.
Yeah.
If you're into hallucinogens, watch it on hallucinogens.
Watch it on some dope.
Sure. Other than that, no, this is a great movie. I really love the message of it. I love the way everything comes together, the writing, the directing. It all looks wonderful. It still looks great 29 years later.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, wonderful movie. I would recommend this to anybody. Like, seriously, just watch this. If you've listened to the entire podcast and didn't listen to our spoiler warning,
Yeah, really.
still watch it.
Yeah, still, I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
I went into it thinking I knew the twist.
Yeah.
Still really enjoyed it. And again, like you said, it's not a twist hinge movie where it's just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, he was
Yeah.
dead the whole time.
By the time the twist is confirmed to you, you pretty much already know, that's exactly what's up.
Yeah, it's more of like, it's more of a twist to Jacob than the
Yes.
viewer.
It is.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of a surprise to him.
Yeah.
If I have to rate this movie, let's see. It's not as much of a joy to watch as, say, some other horror movies we've done. Not as fun as a Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
This isn't a
any of that.
popcorn watch at all.
Yeah. So for that reason, it's less likely I'm just going to toss it on and watch it.
Yeah.
But I have seen it a bunch of times, and it holds up every single time. Still good every time. I still learn more from it every time. I still feel more and more like, yeah, this is made by people who get humanity.
Yeah.
Like
and
they
give a
get,
shit.
Yeah, they do. They care, and that means a lot. So like, for me, this is a horror classic and really should be talked about a lot more.
Yeah.
I gotta give it a 9.5.
9.5.
Boom,
Strong, dude.
Yeah.
Strong. Yeah, I can back all that stuff, man. There's a great making of documentary on YouTube. Did you get the chance to watch that?
I didn't get a chance to watch it. I was gonna watch it.
Man, I even think that whenever you go back and watch it, I think it's just called like Constructing the Ladder or something like that. Just look up Making of Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah.
You'll find it on YouTube. It's about 20-something, 30 minutes, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
And it's mainly with the writer and the director talking about the characters and the scenes and how they made everything. It really makes you, I think, appreciate the movie even more.
Okay.
Because you can tell that they believed so much in this movie and they worked so hard on it and they very deliberately put so much into it.
Right.
That you can really see how much they cared when they were making this movie, which means they also must have been heartbroken whenever it didn't do as well as it should have. But it does have a huge cult following.
It's true. It does.
Phenomenal acting. I don't think anybody in this does a bad job acting-wise. Fantastic special effects. Beautiful soundtrack.
Yeah.
I love how timeless and weird. Like, the movie even looks like you could just look at a still from this movie and be like, maybe this movie was made in 75.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. You could easily think this is a movie from the 70s.
Yeah, or maybe it was made in 1989.
Sure.
Like, it has this weird, ambiguous time feel about it, which I think is really cool. I think it's just this beautiful message on what it must be like to suddenly and unexpectedly be at the end of your life.
Right.
And be thinking about all the stuff that you wanted to do and the stuff you planned on doing and the stuff that you fucked up.
And to know that, like, no matter what,
not going to get to do it.
Like, no matter what, it's over. Like, it's over.
Yeah. That, to me, I think would be just unbelievably miserable if I found myself, stabbed in a jungle, slowly bleeding out, thinking about this stuff I'm never going to get to go home and do.
If I found myself stabbed in a jungle, I would be like, how did I get here?
Where's that predator at?
Where's the damn predator
Where's
at?
that damn predator
Damn
at?
it.
Yeah, I think it's just a beautiful sentiment on, like I said, the way the human spirit I'll put it this way. There's something I read a long time ago about how, like, the default condition of being a human is existing. It's like you can't imagine not existing. You can't imagine the time before you existed. What were you before you remembered existing?
Yeah.
What will you be after you don't exist?
You were constantly and perpetually in the state of existence.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing it like you're perceiving.
Yeah.
Like constantly. Even in your sleep, your brain is still telling
still alive.
you things are happening.
Yeah, exactly. And so after having lived a full life of that and then suddenly finding yourself on this spiritual plane where you're still existing.
Right.
In your mind, you're like, I'm seeing out of my own eyeballs. I'm experiencing things. Therefore, I must be alive.
Yeah.
Which, when he's in the hellish hospital and the doctor's like, you're dead. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm alive. He's like, very like, it's almost like a very childish thing where like you're telling your kid, like, it's time to go to bed. And he's like, no, it's not time for bed.
Right.
He's just fighting it because he can't understand not existing. He's like, I'm awake and I'm experiencing things. Therefore, I'm alive. It's like the default condition is existence.
Yeah.
And I think this movie shows how hard the human spirit fights to understand what's happening to it.
Yes.
And how confusing it must be to suddenly find yourself being dead and still continuing onwards. And what that must be like. It's just a gorgeous fucking movie.
Yeah.
I do think that it could be trimmed down a bit.
A little
I do
bit
think
shorter,
that
yeah.
I think that there's pacing stuff that like, okay, again, you could have paced out the scary stuff a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Could have dealt with the whole like vets fighting against the government thing, or just I honestly think he just kind of could have eliminated all that stuff.
Maybe.
And that would have been fine. I don't think it would have made that much of a difference to the movie. But still, I think it's a total gem. I think everybody should fucking watch this movie. I think it's amazing. I think I'm gonna toss this thing like an 8.5.
Oh,
I think 8.5.
buddy.
Like it's the kind of thing where after I watched the movie, I probably would have said 7. But it's like after just thinking about it more and more and more and revisiting some of the things about the movie, it just made me realize how much there is there to think about and talk about
it's
and
a
pick
deep
apart.
movie. There's a whole lot to it.
Yeah. So by that merit alone, I'm glad you had that migraine last night because it gave me a whole nother day to think about all the stuff in this movie.
I was saying before we recorded, like you got to watch it twice or something. Like you got to have some time to think about it because it is one of those that the more you think about it, the more it affects you because it's so human. We're all gonna experience this.
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
all gonna go through that moment.
Yep.
And we can't possibly know what it's like entirely.
Right.
But it's gonna happen and it's gonna be I think we do know enough about it to be prepared. Like people who really have prepared for death tend to in that moment embrace it and just experience what it is to die.
Right.
Aldous Huxley, who was a big inspiration of Timothy Leary, and in fact gave Timothy Leary the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
Oh shit!
That led to the psychedelic experience. Aldous Huxley had himself injected with like 10 milligrams of LSD on his deathbed. Like he wanted to experience the experience of dying. He wanted to really feel it.
Damn.
I mean, again, like when I said about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, that's probably more about hallucination. It's like maybe it is, but also maybe they just talked to people as they died and tried to figure out what they were going through.
Yeah. Well, one thing I forgot to mention too when we were talking about the drugs and the Tibetan book and stuff you're talking about there too is there's all this stuff about like as you're dying, your brain releasing DMT.
Yes,
which is apparently the ultimate trip.
Yes, and it also makes you experience time dilation that makes you feel like things can happen. Things that happen over a period of a few seconds can feel like years.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
which also makes me wonder. It's like, is he actually just feeling the release of DMT in his brain as he's dying, and he thinks I've been poisoned by the government? I'm tripping balls right now.
Welcome back to the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah, no doubt, right?
But if anybody got any of that DMT, holla.
Yeah. But it's like it makes me wonder if that's really what's going on here. Is this just a big DMT thing?
Yeah, I think they did their research and really like tried to figure out what that moment's like. And it really would be like it's as much a moment as it is infinite. Like if the last thing you're going to experience is this, it's probably gonna feel longer.
Yeah.
I don't know though. I mean, it'll happen eventually. Hopefully not soon.
Also, to RIP to Tim Robbins' neck, muscles, and spinal column.
Oh,
there's a deleted scene in the movie where they put his head in a paint can mixer.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that like gyrates and oscillates him around and stuff. To kind of do the shaky head thing, they put his head in a paint mixer, and then like didn't use the scene. And he said his like neck and stuff has been permanently fucked up.
Yeah,
I mean, those things are violent, dude.
Yes. What the fuck?
I know.
That's crazy.
Pretty meaningless stuff.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're gonna be covering a big old movie next week.
Yeah, we had you guys vote. And we're doing The Fly.
You guys asked for it. You got it. I really like doing these votes and stuff.
Yeah, me too. It's fun.
I'm going to tell you, dead and lovelies out there, I love having you guys have a voice in how this show goes and what you guys want to hear us talk about. So expect to see more of these kinds of votes. Eventually, as we get closer to launching our Patreon and stuff like that, there's going to be more interactive stuff where you guys can drive the car.
Speaking of launching a Patreon, expect that very soon. But, yeah, The Fly, they voted on it. I'm excited about doing it.
Yeah.
The cool thing about these votes is that, seriously, any of the movies would do.
Yeah, that'd be great. There's some other good shit on there, too.
It's like super awesome. Like, we could have done Bone Tomahawk. We could have done Twilight Zone, the movie. We could have done whatever. But, like, yeah, I really like to see what you guys want to do. So, The Fly, I'm excited. I haven't watched it in a while.
I haven't watched it in
I
a
remember
really
being
long time.
disgusted by it as a kid.
It's a gross movie,
It
man.
is.
Is this the first Cronenberg we've done on the show?
First Cronenberg movie.
First one, really?
Excited, yeah.
Rad,
Yeah.
man. We got to do like Videodrome and stuff.
Videodrome.
God, that
Man,
movie's
I'd love
fucked
to.
up.
Existence is one of my favorites. It's
I've never
not a
seen
horror
it.
movie, I don't think, maybe. Just,
Yeah.
well, it's body horror still, yeah.
Yeah. So on next week's show, we talk about that. You guys be sure to tune in. Drop us a review on iTunes. Holy hell, guys. It helps us out a whole ton. Really, really, really. You guys be sure to go in there and drop us some reviews. I think that we have some of the best reviewers on the interweb. Sometimes I check out other podcasts and see that they've been around for 3 times as long as us and just have like 5 reviews or something.
Yeah.
We're over 100 long and strong.
Yeah.
And I want to see that friction continue to get on. So you guys be sure to rate and review on iTunes. Again, it can be super short. Doesn't matter. Just say, love the show. Rate it 5 stars.
Not the size of the review. It's how much it makes other people want to listen to our podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Motion in the ocean.
Motion in the ocean.
Yeah,
The heat of the beat.
It's the heat of the beat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of thing. So you guys be sure to rate and review on iTunes. Keep up with us on them social medias. Tell them about it, Stu.
At Dead Lovely Pod, maybe. Over there on Instagram and Twitter.
at Jimmy Stewart.
This is Jeremy Stewart here, and I want to talk to you about Dead and Lovely Pod. I'm going to be talking for quite a while now. I'm Mr. Smith, and I've come to Washington. Mary.
I just
Anyway.
make noises, I guess, as Jimmy Stewart.
At Dead and Lovely Pod. Also, we got Dead and Lovely Horror Movie Podcast group on Facebook.
First bird.
Or you can email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com. Plus, we have a Discord if you want the link to that. It's up on the Facebook. Also, just email me, and I'll send it to you.
We'll say hi.
Yeah.
Say hi. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode on this very deep and insightful movie about what happened after we shut loose this mortal coil.
President Nixon, get out of here.
Yeah. You guys have just been goddamn fantastic. We have been Dead and Lovely. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye now. We love you. Has the song started yet?
A skibbity wee wop, a wee rock, a Scooby Doo.
Is he testing the mic?
Guess what? America, we love you.
I think he's just telling me things off the top of his head. I don't know if this is the song.
Y'all ever gone over to a friend's house to eat and the food just ain't no good?
Am I supposed to be
Is this
answering the
stand-up
questions?
now?
Yeah, like, I don't know if it's rhetorical.
The macaroni sour, the beans all mushed, and the chicken tastes like wood.
He's just telling me stuff about what he ate. Is this a song?
Yep.
I don't know if it's really telling
It
me
really
much
is.
about anything. Sounds like he's just talking about his day at this point.
Yes, that's basically it. And then one person talks about the things that he has, including checkbooks, credit cards, and color TV so he can see the Knicks play basketball.
Is he just bragging
I think
now?
that's some braggadocio. I don't think he has a color TV at all.
Is having a color TV that big of a deal?
In 1978, it was. It was huge.
It's a pretty big deal, yeah. When you
What
put it
the
that way.
fuck? Color TV?
I miss old school rap.
Yeah, it was
I
fun.
really do.
These are the breaks. Bring it up, bring it up, bring it up. And that was a hit.
Printed.
Yep. Done.